Phoenix Nights. Chapter 303. The secret prison was originally a secret barracks. Due to the expansion of town moling, it was not suitable as a barracks, so it was transformed into a prison, and the secret barracks were moved to the outskirts of the west of the town. Kaneda had painstakingly managed town moling for many years, and the secret army he had mastered was very powerful. Joseph was probably the same. It would be a protracted war between the two brothers. However, a powerful army was proportional to high expenses. Coupled with the fierce battle with Joseph, Kaneda had shown signs of being unable to make ends meet over the years. He urgently needed money to fill the loopholes. He had increased the tax rate of town moling several times, but he was still struggling. This time, Kaneda went to Thunder Valley to capture the incubus beast, mainly to present it to his father, Josh, on his birthday. After pleasing him, he would ask for financial support. Otherwise, who would be willing to give away such a rare demonic beast? Thunder Valley had a large area. After finally getting some clues, Kaneda suddenly received a magic message from Snowden, saying that the newly recruited human powerhouse, Samuel, had an urgent matter to report. "Sir Samuel, what happened?" The strength of the peak stage of the Great Demon King was the strongest combat power in Kaneda's hands. Although both sides were using each other, Kaneda was very reassured about Samuel because this human's purpose was to break through his own strength, and he had no other intentions. If he was used well, he should be able to become the sharpest weapon under his command. "Sir Kaneda, you don't save me any trouble." Samuel shook his head. "The secret prison is not an easy job." Kaneda frowned slightly. "What happened in the prison?" "A very troublesome toxin. It can infect people with terrible diseases, and it will quickly infect and spread," Samuel said with a serious face. "If it is not controlled, the entire town moling will be infected. To put it bluntly, it will become a dead town." Kaneda was shocked. Town moling was his root. If this toxin was allowed to spread, then the foundation that he had painstakingly built for many years would be destroyed. "The source of this toxin is the dark elf woman who came to the prison some time ago. The patients in the cells near her and several jailers were infected. My light magic can temporarily suppress it, but in the demon realm, light elements can exert their strongest power, so it can't be truly purified." Damn it! Kaneda felt that he had fallen into a well-designed trap. It turned out that the dark elf woman turned out to be Joseph's evil plan. The purpose was to destroy town moling. Samuel said, "The only solution is to kill this woman and all the infected people, then let Snowden help me get some herbs, and finally use purification to completely annihilate the toxins in their bones to avoid further infection." Kaneda was overjoyed. "Great! Sir Samuel, I'm counting on you. You can mobilize all the forces, and Snowden will fully assist you." Samuel nodded and turned off the magic communication. Kaneda breathed a sigh of relief. "I didn't expect Joseph to have such a vicious move. Besides, the source of the infection, the dark elf woman, was actively robbed from Joseph. I can only swallow this matter. Fortunately, there is Samuel, a human who is proficient in light magic. I'm really lucky this time. It seems that I have to be more wary of this kind of means in the future." Kaneda, who wasted his brain cells, never thought that the so-called virus was just Shinrui's scheme to successfully take away the two prisoners. Of course, this mess was definitely on Joseph's head. As Kaneda was thinking, his subordinate, Fong Dan, suddenly reported, "Sir Kaneda, Sir Solana sent a signal. He found traces of incubus beasts." Kaneda's spirit was refreshed, and he hurriedly followed Fong Dan. From a distance, he saw a black figure running out of the canyon in front of him. The black figure was a pony, but its appearance and breath were very ordinary. Kaneda frowned. "Isn't this just an ordinary black demonic horse?" There was a barking sound mixed with a powerful shout from a distance. "Sir Kaneda, stop it!" Kaneda noticed that this black horse was not big. It was scarred, but its speed was amazing. Besides, it could still walk on the rugged mountain road like it was on flat ground. He immediately jumped up without thinking and quickly chanted a spell. The muddy ground that was floating with mist suddenly began to freeze on a large area. Fong Dan also began to run quickly in the woods behind, activating the arranged chain of magic traps one by one. The frozen ground slowed down the speed of the black horse. At this moment, the little black horse's eyes glowed red. Its momentum suddenly increased, and its appearance changed. There was a single horn on its head, and its mane and tail became fiery red. It really is an incubus beast. And it can even change its appearance. It must be the best mutated bloodline. Kanita's eyes lit up. His hands recovered faster, and his magic had been exerted to the extreme. He focused on holding the incubus beast while waiting for Solana's arrival and the full activation of the traps and magic circles behind. With a whoosh, the incubus beast's 4 hooves suddenly burst into flames, and the ice under its feet suddenly melted. The incubus beast that got rid of the trouble of moving forward accelerated again. Fortunately, Fong Dan had activated all the magic traps in the woods. Under the pressure of Kanita's endless icicles, wind blades and other means, the direction of the incubus beast's escape became the woods. Just when Kanita thought he succeeded, the incubus beast suddenly turned around and changed its direction. It ignored the attack magic and rushed straight to Kanita. The wind blades cut through the incubus beast's skin, causing blood to spill and drip to the ground. The blood actually burned, but the incubus beast still rushed forward regardless of its own safety. Kanita's strength had reached the middle level of Demon King. He felt a dangerous breath from this incubus beast. Its strength should still be above him, so he didn't dare to confront it head-on. He hurriedly dodged. Before he could take a breath, the incubus beast's eyes flashed with red light of hatred. Kanita's protective magic spell was flashing. Before he finished chanting, he was hit by the lightning. Even though he had practiced wind magic for many years, and his resistance to wind elements had accumulated to a certain extent, he still couldn't withstand the incubus beast's talent lightning. He was suddenly knocked to the ground. The pain was so intense that his whole body was emitting electric sparks, accompanied by a strong sense of numbness. Kanita originally wanted to force the incubus beast into the trap, but he didn't expect the incubus beast to be so intelligent and fierce. He was knocked down by lightning for a moment of carelessness, and he suddenly lost his ability to move. Seeing the incubus beast approaching, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. At this time, the barking behind was getting closer and closer. He faintly saw a few black shadows rushing over. They were the fierce hellhounds. The incubus beast wasn't afraid of the hellhounds, but it suffered a lot from Solana, so it didn't dare to stay. It abandoned Kanita and fled into the distance. Just when Kanita was defeated in Thunder Valley, the source of the virus, Dark Elf Woman and the infected, Teak had been secretly brought out in town Moling. This Dark Elf Woman was called Lisa. She was pretty, and her eyebrows were indeed somewhat similar to Aldous. She looked very dispirited, but it wasn't certain if she was the Master's sister. When she met Aldous, the answer would naturally be revealed. As for Tonk's brother, Teak, his mental appearance was a bit special. When he was taken away from the prison, he actually drew various crossbow-like patterns on the ground. He was indeed a guy who did not do his job. He was in prison, but he still had the mood to play with these things. After disguising himself, Snowden took Lisa and Teak, plus the 2 teenagers from the inn to the Dark Moon. However, they took the route of the Shadow Empire from Town Sam to the Dark Shadow's capital, then to Town Leia. Through Town Leia, they arrived at the western part of the Dark Moon, and handed them over to Tim in Mountain Shillong. This was Chenrei's arrangement. Although it was a detour, Snowden was Kanita's right-hand man, and he was on Joseph's watch. If he took the route of Town Mordo, he was likely to be exposed, so he chose this long route. Besides, it was quite safe and appropriate to temporarily place them in Tim. Samuel still stayed in the secret prison as his warden. This encounter with Samuel was a huge gain for Chenrei. Not only did he know his origin, and accepted a loyal person at the peak of Great Demon King, but most importantly, the appearance of Samuel made his biggest plan get the most needed supplement. The next key action could really begin. The starting point of this action was set at Town Moling. At present, the most important thing for Chenrei was to return to the Dark Moon first. He did not set off with Snowdin, Teak, and others. Instead, he went to the Thunder Valley. Incubus Beast was a good thing. Even if he couldn't get it, he couldn't let Kaneda succeed. In the latest plan, Kaneda should continue to maintain a financial deficit. He urgently needed a lot of funds instead of getting the Incubus Beast to alleviate the economic crisis. The Incubus Beast didn't know that it had become the target of both parties, so it was still running desperately. Its injuries were very serious. Due to its special physique, it must find a rare cone fruit in the Thunder Valley. Not only could it replenish its stamina, but it could also restore magic power and injuries. On a rock next to a stream, the exhausted Incubus Beast finally found a bunch of cone fruits. The small pale red fruit hanging on the vine looked as attractive as a gem. Fruit, fruit! The Incubus Beast cheered up and walked toward the cone fruit. Just after crossing the stream, the Incubus Beast suddenly stopped vigilantly. It turned out that someone yawned at the rock. Enemy! When did it appear? It must be a powerful enemy. The Incubus Beast's eyes faintly glowed red. In the past few days of fleeing, its stamina and magic power were on the verge of overdraft, but the hatred in its eyes was getting stronger and stronger. With the Incubus Beast's natural fierceness, it would not succumb to these damn enemies even if it died in the end. The strange thing was that the person sitting on the ground did not attack. Instead, he stretched, stood up, muttered a few words to himself, walked toward the cone fruit, and picked it up. The Incubus Beast was taken aback. It snorted and slowly gathered its remaining power, preparing for the last fight. Little Black Horse, what's wrong? The enemy's voice suddenly sounded in the Incubus Beast's mind. It was not currently in the form of the Incubus Beast. It looked like an ordinary black demonic horse. The Incubus Beast didn't expect this person to communicate directly with it, so it took a few steps back vigilantly. The man raised the cone fruit and smiled. Do you want to eat this fruit? Fruit, fruit! The Incubus Beast panted and stared at the fruit in the man's hand. I wanted to eat it, forget it, I'll give it to you. The man actually threw the fruit over. The Incubus Beast was like an agile demonic hound. It jumped up in the air and caught the fruit in its mouth. The Incubus Beast's intelligence wasn't low. Although it was eating, it was always vigilant of the man. However, after it finished eating, the man still didn't attack. The Incubus Beast's hostility decreased slightly. It swallowed the fruit and drank a few mouthfuls of water. Just as it was about to leave, the man's voice sounded in its mind again. Little Black Horse, do you like to eat fruits? I have some here. Do you want some? The Incubus Beast's nose suddenly twitched. Its eyes fell on the fruit in the man's hand, and it couldn't look away. The aura of power that the fruit exuded was many times stronger than that of the cone fruit. It had been in Thunder Valley for so long, but this was the first time it had seen such a fruit. Fruit, fruit! Whether it was to replenish its strength or fill its stomach, the cone fruit was far from enough. The Incubus Beast looked at the fruit in the man's hand and was tempted. This man shouldn't be hostile, but it seemed that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. It would probably be difficult to snatch it away. Little Black Horse, catch! The man smiled and threw the fruit over. The Incubus Beast didn't catch it. It let the fruit fall to the ground and shatter. However, it couldn't resist the tempting fragrance. After taking a few bites, it couldn't help but eat it all. As soon as it raised its head, the man who had been on the rock instantly appeared in front of it. The Incubus Beast was shocked. It was about to react when it saw another fruit in the man's hand. He handed it to the Incubus Beast. It won't taste good if it breaks. Here you go. The fragrance of the fruit, and the kindness it sensed in its consciousness made the Incubus Beast hesitate for a long time. Finally, it leaned over and ate the fruit in the man's hand. After eating several in a row, its impression of the man increased greatly. It didn't even resist the man's gentle touch. Little Black Horse, how did you get hurt? Let me help you heal it. The man took out a bottle and poured some on its wound. A cool and comfortable feeling came over it. It could clearly feel that the injury was healing faster. The Incubus Beast snorted and rubbed against the man affectionately. Although this man is powerful, he is not an enemy. Besides, he is very good. This guy was naturally Chenrui. He spent a day coming to Thunder Valley for the incubus beast. The encounter with the little black horse was purely accidental. Initially, this dark horse didn't attract his attention. It wasn't until analytical eyes showed the corresponding prompt that he began to pay attention. Race, incubus beast mutated. Comprehensive strength assessment, C+. Physique, C+, strength, C, spirit, C+, agility, B-. Analytical eyes showed that the incubus beast's strength was at the peak of Demon King, and its agility had reached the level of Great Demon King. However, the breath revealed on the surface was only at intermediate demon. It seemed that this incubus beast's mutated bloodline skill had at least one of its own breath concealing. A demonic beast that knows breath holding and camouflage. Chapter 304. After Chenrui discovered the strange talent of the incubus beast, his interest suddenly increased. After hearing the incubus beast's desire for the fruit in analytical eyes, he wanted to use the fruit to lure it, but when he got the string of fruits, he was surprised to find that this string of fruits exuded a faint aura, just like the devil pomeg he got in Town Leia. So, there was the tragic story of a kind little black horse being abducted. If there was no Kanita's pursuit, no strong contrast of treatment, and no exhaustion of the need for fruits, the content of this story might become a kind little black horse bravely getting rid of the human trafficker. The horse trafficker's abduction. However, it was such a coincidence that the little black horse had sent the good guy card directly to Chenrui now. At this moment, the barking of dogs in the woods across the stream alerted the incubus beast. It shook its hooves uneasily. Enemy! Enemy! The man's kind voice sounded in his mind. Don't be afraid, watch me beat them away. Sure enough, a group of people came out of the woods, led by Kanita with a few hellhounds. They apparently followed the bloodstains and breath all the way here. Chenrui also knew that Kanita and the others contributed a lot to the success of tricking the little black horse, so now it was time for him to repay. The first sentence of his gratitude was, "Who touched my horse?" Kanita was taken aback. Seeing the incubus beast obediently beside this person and didn't escape, it really looked like it. The incubus beast has a master? So what? This person seems to only have the strength of a higher demon. Anyone on my side can easily kill him. I really don't understand why the incubus beast recognizes this weakling as its master? Or perhaps, this guy doesn't even know that this horse is the strongest demonic beast mount? Kanita sneered. Fong Dan on the side did not cooperate with him by saying, "Why is my lord laughing?" But she jumped out arrogantly and shouted, "This is Sir Kanita, the controller of Town Moling. If you know what's good for you, immediately offer the horse." As soon as she finished speaking, Chenrui had appeared in front of Fong Dan without warning. Without any movement, Fong Dan's words suddenly stopped. Chenrui didn't even look at Fong Dan, but his gaze fell on Kanita, who was the leader. "Did you touch my horse?" After saying this, Fong Dan's head fell down. Kanita's face suddenly changed. Fong Dan has the strength of the early stage of Demon King, but in the blink of an eye, this higher demon. No! He was definitely not a higher demon. The strongest Solana stepped forward and blocked in front of Kanita. "Sir, please stop. It's just an intermediate stage of Great Demon King. Apart from spirit power, physique and strength are not worth mentioning." Chenrui glanced at Solana disdainfully and stretched out a hand. "I can turn you into powder with one hand." It probably won't take a minute. It was true that Chenrui could kill Solana, but these words were definitely a bluff. Solana felt a chill in his heart. There was a feeling of being naked in front of the other party. This enemy still had the breath of higher demon, but he easily killed the Demon King level Fong Dan just now. Now, he easily saw through his actual situation. He was really unfathomable. Chenrui walked forward slowly. Just as Solana wanted to cast magic, he felt that the surrounding scene was different. It seemed that something was changing. Every step the other party took, the change became clearer. This was a strange scene. The surroundings were full of strange balls of various sizes, showing a dark and magnificent color. The rhythm of rotation seemed to contain some kind of supreme and mysterious law. Not only that, Solana, Kanita, and everyone in this scene felt that their strength had dropped a lot inexplicably, and there was a feeling of weakness or dizziness from time to time. Solana's complexion changed drastically. He was drenched in cold sweat, and he lost his last courage to resist. He spat out 2 words with difficulty. Territory. Kanita's complexion on the side also changed. A powerhouse with territory is at least a demon emperor. In the entire Red Spirit estate, he only knows one demon emperor, that is his father, Josh Alvin. Furthermore, he is only at the early stage of the demon emperor. This mysterious, higher demon in front of me is at least a terrifying powerhouse at the same level as my father. You touched my horse, so you have to pay the price. Shinrei put his hands behind his back, and there was no sign of him making a move. Although his body still had the breath of higher demon, no one dared to take the initiative to make a move or even move. The demon realm hasn't had a miracle for a long time. Tens of thousands of years? Hundreds of thousands of years? God knows if the old demon god is asleep. Even a demigod like Demon Supremo almost never appeared. Then, the top powerhouses like Demon Emperor and Demon Overlord represented the peak. Their territory power had long been deified. The territory power of this mysterious powerhouse in front of them was obviously reserved. Once it was launched, it could destroy everyone in an instant. No one doubted this except for the powerhouse himself. A Demon Emperor level powerhouse was only a department manager in the Crystal Valley. There were more powerful general managers and chairmen above him, but in a place like Town Moling, he was definitely a legendary powerhouse that everyone looked up to. Red Spirit Lord's son, Kanita. Alvin greets, sir. Kanita was finally intelligent. He had recovered from the shock and quickly bowed. Sir. Solana also spoke. Please forgive my rudeness just now. This incident is just a misunderstanding. We didn't know that the powerful demonic beast was Sir's mount. Please forgive us, sir. Shinrei shook his head. There was a faint murderous vibe in his voice. I don't care whose son you are or what misunderstanding you have. Now, my horse was hurt by you. You must give me a satisfactory explanation. Otherwise, you will all die here. This tone sounded polite to Kanita. After all, they were just ants in front of a powerhouse of this level. If they encountered a bad-tempered person, he would kill them directly. This was probably because he was still worried about the identity that Kanita had just revealed. For this matter, I express my most sincere apology to Sir, and I am willing to pay compensation that will satisfy Sir. Kanita said. I was ordered by my father to control Town Moling to the south of the Thunder Valley. If Sir has any needs in the future, just instruct me. I will definitely do it for Sir. Next was the rip-off time. After paying a considerable price, Kanita and others left the Thunder Valley as if they were granted amnesty. What surprised the Demon Emperor level powerhouse was that among Kanita's compensation, there was something that was said to be an ancient treasure map. For Kanita, it was a valuable waste utilization to be able to exchange this incomplete map for his life. For Shinrei, this map remnant seemed to be part of the map he got from Dodo back then. Unfortunately, it was still incomplete. For now, it was better to store it in the storage warehouse first. Little Black Horse, this fruit is for you. Shinrei touched the incubus beast's mane affectionately and took out an aura fruit different from the devil pomeg fruit. I still have a lot of these fruits. Unfortunately, I have to eat them once I take them out. Otherwise, they will wither. This incubus beast had a mutated bloodline, and its physique was very special. It urgently needed rare fruits like the Koro fruit to help it grow and strengthen. However, even in the Thunder Valley, where the Koro fruit was exclusively produced, the output of the fruit was very scarce. Now that this good man continuously took out wonderful fruits that were more powerful than the Koro fruit, how could the little black horse not be tempted? Gwa-wa-gwa-wa. Seeing the little black horse following him automatically, A certain cunning horse dealer showed a knowing smile. The abduction plan was successful. Compared with Chenrui, who traveled with the little black horse easily, Manu could only be described as exasperated at the moment. After using the secret technique to escape, he soon received the news that his elites were annihilated. At the same time, the bloody vine flower city was also controlled. The ingenious ambush that was initially set was almost uprooted. What was even more troubling was that after escaping from the Crystal Valley, his body had always been filled with a strange power that made him feel like dying. Even though he seemed to be full of vitality, and had become much younger, the price of maintaining this state was a large overdraft of his vitality and mana. If this continued, not only would his power rapidly decline, he might even lose his life. Everything was because of that lunatic, a genius lunatic who was bound to die. Although his death was a pity, it was worth rejoicing. Sir Manu. The one who spoke was Brock. He took out a small jar. This is today's purified violet smoke liquid, but some of the materials are getting more and more difficult to find. No matter how difficult it is to find, I have to get it. Manu snorted coldly, took the small jar, pulled out the stopper and drank it. This violet smoke liquid was purified from various rare plants such as violet fireworks with a secret recipe. Since Manu consumed it, the strange power in his body had really been suppressed a lot. Brock noticed that Manu's hand was a little trembling, and the cold light in his eyes was fleeting. Sir, the bloody vine flower city has been completely exposed, and the Crystal Valley has also been destroyed. What are we going to do next? Manu closed his eyes and felt the comfort of the violet smoke liquid resolving the pain. He took a deep breath. The change in the Crystal Valley this time caused us to suffer heavy losses. Currently, the Shadow Empire will definitely suppress and search our forces throughout the territory. You should return to the border fortress and keep a low profile for the time being. Don't attract the capital's attention. Got it? Brock asked tentatively. As for the First Royal Highness, do you want to? No, I'll contact him myself. Manu frowned. You should pay more attention to the whereabouts of Asgalar and Jacob and contact them as soon as possible. Brock nodded and suddenly showed a strange smile. Sir, do you have anything else to tell me? This smile made the sensitive Manu's heart tighten. He narrowed his eyes and pretended to be pondering, but in fact, he was secretly channeling his power. Suddenly, his face changed drastically. Don't be surprised, Sir Manu. You've always wanted to hide your injury. But how can you hide it from me? You must know that I'm the first general of the Shadow Empire. You're not suffering from any magic damage, but the strongest nirvana power. Brock still smiled. The violet fireworks can't actually suppress the nirvana power. It will only make it explode more violently after it condenses. The suppression that you've felt before is just an illusion caused by other drugs. However, it's really not easy to trick you into consuming the violet smoke liquid. It turns out that the price paid back then is worth it. Now that you've consumed it for 7 consecutive days, it's time for me to reap the rewards. A strong anger surged in Manu's heart. He thought that he was smarter than others and was always on guard, but he actually fell into Brock's hands. If it weren't for that terrifying woman's territory power, if it weren't for that man, unfortunately, there weren't so many ifs, in reality. It was the same no matter which dimension it was. At that moment, the nirvana power that had been suppressed in Manu's body began to spread wildly. His original power completely collapsed. When Manu desperately gathered his power, he felt a bloody light. Although his consciousness had already made the thought of dodging, his body couldn't make the corresponding movement. He only felt a pain in his chest as he was pierced by the long sword blood river. Manu snorted and staggered a few steps back. He felt that there was an extra hand on his neck which was like an iron hoop tightly clasping his throat. Hand over the demon shield. I can spare your life. Manu's eyes flashed with resentment. I'm a demon overlord, and I'm even at the peak. When did I get hurt and threatened by a mere demon emperor? Besides, he knew Brock's temperament very well. Not to mention that the demon shield might have fallen into Catherine's hands. Even if he could hand it over today, he would still die. Brock twisted his long sword and Manu suddenly screamed. In an instant he felt that the scattered power seemed to condense a little because of the pain, but it didn't show on the surface. It doesn't matter if you don't say it, my sir uncle. I can use the Eye of Incubus to extract it from your memory. Brock's handsome face became ferocious. I forgot to tell you that I recently realized a new mystery of the Incubus territory. I can transform the enemy's flesh and blood into part of my own power. Sir Uncle is at the peak of the demon overlord, so you should be able to provide a lot of power. I'm about to break through to the demon overlord. I believe you will be happy to make such a contribution to the new king of Leviathan. After that, Brock's blue eyes suddenly turned into a strange black color. Black smoke emitted from his body and faintly wrapped Manu. In Manu's continuous screams, his flesh and blood were disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Brock felt a strong power coming from him, and he was very proud in his heart. I'll suck Manu's flesh and blood first, then I'll use the Eye of Incubus to extract his memory at the last moment. As long as I can get Manu's power and get the corresponding territory perception in my consciousness, it's only a matter of time to break through to the demon overlord. At that moment, Manu's body that could already see his bones suddenly shone with white light. Threads passed through the black smoke and wrapped around Brock. Brock didn't expect Manu to still have the power to struggle before death. He felt that the threads seemed to pass through his body and almost split his soul. In shock, he couldn't care about the consciousness extraction as planned. His eyes turned black at the same time as he fully activated the power of the sucking. Although Manu used the pain to barely condense a trace of power, the effect of the purple smoke was too strong. He finally couldn't resist Brock's Incubus territory. He immediately made up his mind, and his entire body exploded together with the threads that tied Brock. Brock only felt that his soul and body were cut by thousands of blades at the same time. He immediately screamed. When he regained his consciousness, Manu was already smashed into pieces. Brock covered his painful heart and looked lucky. The final explosion caused him to be severely injured. It would take a long time to recover. However, he had successfully swallowed most of the power of the flesh and blood previously. After digesting it, his power should reach the demon overlord level. Now, he was only left with the territory perception. Although the price was not small, although the demon shield was still missing, Brock Leviathan was already the new master of the Envy royal family. Chapter 305. Shinrei knew nothing about the power transfer battle of the Leviathan royal family. At this moment, he was riding the little black horse safely out of town Mordo. Soon afterward, with his potioneer identity and the appearance and breath of the incubus beast, the little black horse, he passed through the frontier checkpoint very smoothly and officially stepped into the Dark Moon's territory. After so many changes and adventures in the Shadow Empire, Shinrei's longing for Athena became stronger and stronger. Not only did he miss Athena, but he also missed Kia, Jia, Alice, Paglio, and more. The incubus beast was very fast. 3 days later, the figure of the little black horse had appeared at the east gate of the Dark Moon City. Even in the evening when the light was not very bright, Shinrei could still see that the spirit and temperament of the gate guards had changed a lot from before. It seemed that through this period of training, the overall quality had been improved a lot. The shops along the way were nervously preparing for the start of the night market. Since the night market organized by the Cloak Gang started operating, it received unanimous praise from the entire Dark Moon City. It became the favorite place of the demons who liked to hang out at night. It effectively promoted the economy and consumption. Now the night market was divided into 2 large areas, southwest and southeast. The southwest was dominated by small merchants and hawkers, while the southeast was a joint sales point of large and medium-sized merchants. Each had its own characteristics. As the controller, the Cloak Gang's income had greatly increased. The Hot Pot restaurant was still very popular. Now, it had opened 3 branches and became the specialty snack of the Dark Moon City. The merchants also ushered in the spring that only existed in the human world. They only needed to pay taxes and the protection fee of the cloak gang, then they could operate freely. They didn't have to consider the various filial piety and extortion in the past. Their enthusiasm was also greatly increased. Chenrui also saw a new shop selling the Shadow Empire's specialty products. Serene had become the heir of the Custer family, and she gradually took over the power handed over by the patriarch, Kraz. Under her operation, the Custer family's actions had slowly begun. The first step of trading between the Dark Moon and the Shadow Empire had been successfully taken. With the Custer family as a card, the Dark Moon's purchase of food from the Shadow Empire would be very smooth. At least on the surface, Jia could already freely cope with the capital's food sanctions some time ago. However, the food sanction was only one of the capital's means. If it was just a passive defense, then one day, the Dark Moon would be shattered and completely collapsed under this kind of slash, so they must find a way to counterattack. After the incident of town mulling, the implementation of the most important plan was getting closer and closer. If the overall plan was successful, Jia was likely to become the Empire Empress step by step and rule the fallen Angel Empire to stand on equal footing with the other two empires. The problem was that about 200 years later, when the Demon Realm and the Human Realm had another large-scale war, the fallen Angel Empire would definitely be unable to avoid participating. No matter which side won, it didn't seem to be a good result for him, a human, or even the Prince of the Holy Empire on the ground. Moreover, his lifespan was at least 10,000 years, and similar troubles might follow. As Chenrui thought about it, he only felt a headache. However, he would cross the bridge when he came to it. Anyway, there were still 200 years, so he would consider it at that time. He led the little black horse all the way to the sheriff's house. Since the human sheriff was in a coma for a long time, there were fewer and fewer visitors. It was not until the sheriff's lover, Athena, was appointed as the acting sheriff that many people came to visit the humans' illness, but they were all rejected by Athena. This was the fickleness of human nature, and the fickleness of the world. It was the same in every dimension. The sheriff's house covered a large area, but the location was relatively remote. Everyone in the Dark Moon City knew that this gloomy house had no guards or servants. There were people with ulterior motives who wanted to sneak into the house, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea, and there was no news anymore. It was said that this place was full of powerful magic circles set by Princess Royal's subordinate, Sir Gauss. No one dared to enter this place without permission from Madame Athena. In fact, compared with the real person who set up these magic circles, Sir Gauss could only regrettably be classified as an ant. Chenrui entered the house with ease. He turned two corners and easily came to the yard. If it was another person, perhaps he would enjoy the intimate contact of the dragon inscription or the guardian vine within 3 steps. Walking into the yard, he saw Lomont saying something to Delia with a flattering smile. Dodo and Paglio, who were gloating, were beside him, but Athena was nowhere to be seen. Seeing a great demon walking in with a horse instead of the imagined Athena, everyone looked surprised. Paglio reacted the fastest. He grinned and raised the glass, and the slime reflexively poured a full glass of wine. "Look who's back!" Lomont also reacted. Before Chenrui recovered his face, he had already walked over with a sneaky smile. "A trio specialized mechanic master, the 10,000 years genius that shocked the demon realm? Damn it, you can't be the illegitimate child that the demon god left in this world, right?" Paglio felt the same way about this. However, he had been honed for a long time since he first met Chenrui, so he was much more open-minded. Lomont's fuss was just like him back then. He just smiled mysteriously with the demeanor of the dragons. "Why do I hear a sour smell? When did envy become synonymous with the sloth royal family?" Chenrui had restored his original face. "I say, Delia, are you sure this guy isn't a spy from your envy royal family who sneaked into the Belphegor royal family?" "Captain, I'm sure." Although the Silent Night wetland battle had passed a long time ago, Delia was still used to calling Chenrui captain. She replied in a serious tone with a faint smile in her eyes. "A stupid guy like him." Before Delia finished speaking, Lomont said with a sad face. I'm also the son-in-law of the Enby royal family anyway, humph, shameless guy. Delia blushed, but she said to Paglio, Dodo! The slime just realized that his master had returned, so he couldn't get a word in. When he saw Delia's greeting, he immediately turned into Lomont in a flaunting manner. Such a beast! Dodo, who transformed into Lomont, took the opportunity to take a big gulp of wine and sighed to the sky. Demon God! Open your omnipotent left eye that can charm all women and take care of your poor believer. You're even caught by Delia when you're flirting with a beauty. No, I can't be hung to death on a tree. I want the entire forest. You'd better look for the entire forest. My tree doesn't welcome you. Delia looked at the dumbfounded Lomont with an ambiguous smile and gave him the back of her head. Don't say that everything is in the past. With your rich experience, you should know that women are very vengeful. She really is a beast. Chenrei showed a look of sudden realization. Delia, don't worry. As the captain, I fully support your choice. You're too vicious. Lomont bared his fangs and wanted to step forward with intense body language to express the grief and indignation in his heart. This action caused the little black horse behind Chenrei to misunderstand and show vigilance. Due to feeling the strength of this enemy, the little black horse did not hesitate to transform into the form of Incubus. The horn on the top of its head flashed, and the mutated talent lightning power burst out. This transformation attracted everyone's attention. Lomont screamed and activated the speed talent of the Belphegor royal family, Flash. He actually dodged the lightning. It didn't mean that Lomont's speed had reached or exceeded the speed of light. This dodge was a reaction similar to thought. With the talent of Flash, he avoided this powerful lightning in an instant. Even without analytical eyes, it could be seen that Lomont's strength had made a great leap compared to before. He should have reached the great Demon King level. The little black horse did not continue to attack because Chenrei had already told him in his consciousness that everyone here was his friend. Of course, the most important thing was that the little black horse was not Lomont's opponent at the moment. If it reached the great Demon King level, Chenrei didn't mind letting the forest man have a lightning bath first. Incubus! Delia was taken aback. Putting aside the strength of the incubus, its temperament was extremely unyielding. It was one of the most difficult demonic beasts to tame. This incubus beast could emit lightning and transform. It was definitely a rare mutated bloodline. Unexpectedly, it was as docile as a hellhound in front of Chenrei. Chenrei threw a fruit, and this incubus beast, which had returned to its dark horse form, jumped high and caught it in midair. Is this a horse, or a dog? Lomont pointed his finger at Chenrei, then he pointed at the still hostile incubus beast. He couldn't speak for a while. Jealousy, pure jealousy, it's too unfair. Leader must know witchcraft. Sir Lomont's luck was robbed by him. Chenrei was too lazy to argue with this guy, and he didn't look at Dodo, who was smiling. His attention was all behind him. Another person walked into the yard. The familiar footsteps made him know who she was almost without looking back. It was as if she knew him. Her appearance was not the most beautiful in the demon realm, but in his heart, she was the most beautiful. When the slightly tired beautiful red eyes saw Chenrei's back, they instantly shone with surprise. She happened to meet his gaze as he turned around. She quickened her pace, ignoring the gaze of her friends in the yard, and the vigilant gaze of the little black horse behind him. She came to him, and hugged him. At the same time he hugged her tightly. Athena, I'm back. It was a very plain words, but it was full of happiness. Even the little black horse was infected by this emotion, and it silently put away its hostility. The two felt each other's heartbeat and body temperature, silently exchanging their thoughts after parting. They almost forgot the time until... Delia, I'm back. Get lost! Chapter 306. The brilliance of the two moons quietly changed to purple. The sheriff's house, which still looked gloomy and quiet on the outside, was full of noises that outsiders didn't know. It seemed very lively. My Sir Captain, Sir Uncle, you are too shameless! We hid here and waited for your corpse hard, but you are enjoying the best wine and beauty in that good place. Lomont was shameless. He was drinking the wine that Chenrei brought from Crystal Valley while stuffing it into the space ring. He kept complaining with righteous indignation. It was obvious that he was a shameless guy who ate and abducted others. You actually met Jacob? Paglio showed a dignified expression, then he immediately showed his true nature. Did you get his treasure? As a partner who shares life, I have the right to ask for a share of the loot you obtained. Don't try to hide or prevaricate. I know your cunning and greed very well. Chenrei was only halfway through his story, but he was interrupted several times by these two guys. He was quite speechless. What was even more speechless was that Dodo wasn't listening at all. Instead, he turned into Chenrei, holding an apple in each hand. One was swinging in front of the little black horse while the other was stuffing into his mouth. He said vaguely, "Guabua. Guabua." Since seeing Chenrei teasing the little black horse with fruits, Dodo had become interested in this newcomer. For some reason, the slime could actually understand the little black horse's voice. Unfortunately, the little black horse didn't listen to him at all. When he was annoyed, he would directly cast terror on this fake. On the other side, Paglio's expression had sublimated to a hateful look. As a noble dragons with rich financial experience, I, Paglio, haven't gone out to plunder, collect wasted property for a long time. I deliberately went out a few times a few days ago, but this damn place is really a poor and remote place. There isn't even a decent treasure, let alone any artifact. A dragon can't even sleep in a pile of treasures. That feeling of emptiness is simply a great shame. Emptiness? Chenrei was speechless. Paglio even went out to explore the way. Doesn't he know that rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows? Fortunately, the Dark Moon City was a poor place. There was really nothing that could catch the attention of this dead duck dragon. Chenrei directly threw out a gold crystal bed that he got when the crystal dragons were dormant last time and smashed it fiercely at the dragons full of the stench of money. Paglio caught it and carefully examined it for a while with the eyes of an expert in treasure appraisal. Finally, he lay down in front of everyone with a smile and a satisfied expression. The so-called dragon's dignity and bearing were all thrown to the King human world. How did I get to know these two weirdos? And an unreliable servant. Fortunately, Delia and Athena were still very good listeners. Just as he thought of this, he saw Delia looking at him expectantly, and then pointing at herself. It's rare for a normal pretty girl to be insulted by these two unscrupulous guys. Chenrei helplessly took out a pair of gloves as thin as cicada's wings. It was seized from Sabrina. It had high defense and could enhance the power of the water element. Seeing Delia took it happily, Chenrei sighed secretly. Do I have it easy? Athena watched all this with a smile. She never took back her hand that he was holding. Chenrei's story continued. When it came to the thrilling part, even the two guys who liked to interrupt closed their mouths. Paglio sat up from the gold crystal bed and said emotionally, That Empress Catherine defeated the joint forces of Jacob and 3 other peak stage demon overlords by herself? Chenrei's story was still somewhat reserved. He slightly changed the plot. He only said that Catherine the Great came in person, and he pretended to be dead and lay on the ground to witness all of this. Yes, the guy named Manu should not be far from death. If Jacob and Esgalar didn't run fast, there would definitely be casualties. Paglio really showed a solemn expression this time. The strength gap between demon overlords is very big, but I know Jacob's strength very well. This Catherine actually has this kind of power. Even if I recover to my peak state, I'm afraid I'm not her opponent. What's more, I'm limited by the seal now, so I've only recovered to the state of the peak stage demon emperor. Even Paglio himself couldn't see any clues about the 6 ancient rune slabs. It seemed that he could only hope to find the fairy dragon, Rala. Who cares, I'll think about it later. Being able to sleep on this gold crystal bed is no less than sleeping on a pile of black crystal coins. At least I can have a solid dream tonight. Delia was surprised to see Chenrei take out the highest artifact of the Leviathan royal family, Demon Shield, from his body. This state of fusion should be the highest recognition of the artifact. What surprised her even more was that she, who had been recognized by the demon shield, couldn't sense the strange connection anymore, and the illusory shield couldn't be combined with the demon shield in this case. Shinrei was surprised. Does the deep analysis of the super system also have this effect of snatching control? The god-eating mask that has been completely analyzed can't even be taken off. This is equipment binding? Damn. Initially, he analyzed the demon shield to trick Brock and increase his chances of survival. In the battle, the demon shield did save his life, but now it caused the original successor, Delia, to lose control. Shinrei couldn't help but regret it. Delia saw Shinrei's thoughts. She smiled slightly, indicating that it was okay. With the illusory shield, she could still resist Brock's soul shackles. The others naturally attributed this matter to the strange power inherited by the ancient Grand Master. Otherwise, how could a human fuse 7 artifacts? In fact, Shinrei not only had the demon shield but also a complete artifact like the god-eating mask. It was just that in terms of power, it seemed to be weakened. Lomont didn't care. He was stubborn and joking, but he was never ambiguous when it came to business. Both his and Delia's lives were saved by Shinrei. Now that he was with Delia, it was also Shinrei's credit. Never mind the demon shield, even if it was the artifact of the Belphegor royal family, Bree's shadow boots, he didn't care. A quiet night. Let's sign a symbiotic contract, okay? In the room, Athena lay in Shinrei's arms and suddenly said such a sentence. I know that you can carry more than one contract on you. Athena raised her head seriously and looked at Shinrei. Although I don't know how to perform the symbiotic contract, Piglio should be able to help us. Shinrei saw that Athena was not joking, and he asked in surprise, Why do you have such an idea? 3 years ago, Lomont and Delia adventured together in the Silent Night wetland, and they almost died. 3 years later, Delia went to the Silent Night wetland, and Lomont still accompanied her. What about me? When you risked your life in the Silent Night wetland and the Shadow Empire, I stayed alone in this so-called safe place. I'm not a vase. I have the ability and courage to face danger with the man I love. Athena's eyes were already red. I understand that you're thinking for me. Just like when Lomont left Delia, he was also thinking for her, but is Delia happy? Shinrei was shocked. Since the battle in the underground world of Mountain Shilong, he had never wanted Athena to face danger again, but he never thought from her point of view. I know it's a little selfish to say this. Your wisdom is amazing. Your plan and calculation even amazed my father. I won't destroy your plan or become your burden. Athena's eyes glistened with tears. I just want to connect my life with you and face life and death with you, even if I'm not by your side. Shinrei looked at the beloved woman in front of him, the face that was still persistent with tears. The scene when she faced Glorfin in Mountain Shilong appeared in front of his eyes again. She, who turned into a witch, was burning with the flame of life. But I still love you. It's not like it's love. Maybe it's like the story you told. We will meet again in a certain underworld. No matter what, don't forget me. This love of sharing life and death had been deeply imprinted in each other's souls. Even at the last moment of dissipation, it would not disappear. Shinrei's eyes were a little moist. He held her face and looked at the pair of crystal red eyes affectionately as if it was the most precious treasure in the world. Athena, answer a few questions for me. If I don't have a house, a car, and money, will you still be willing to accept my gaze like this? Of course, Athena replied. She was a little puzzled. If you don't have a house, can't you build it together? It's just like the warm hut in the green leaf forest of Mountain Shilong. Although it's simple, it's warmer than all the luxurious and spacious houses I used to live in. Car, is it a luxury carriage? Other than showing off, what else can that thing be used for? As for money, it's fine as long as it's enough. Anyway, I don't like any special luxury goods. Sometimes just an ordinary dress that he bought is enough to make me happy for a long time. What if I don't have the power? Athena blushed. Actually, In the black rainforest, my heart has already been cheated by you. At that time, you were just a powerless human, at least you acted like this in front of me. Chenrei straightened up and solemnly said to Athena, Then, the last question, Ms. Athena, regardless of poverty, disease or death, are you willing to accompany this man for a lifetime? Athena suddenly understood something. Her hand that was held by him trembled slightly because of nervousness. She said firmly, I'm willing, regardless of poverty, disease or death. Chenrei felt warm in his heart. Suddenly he knelt down on one knee and put a magic ring on the ring finger of her left hand. This is an ancient custom. It means, even if you want to regret in the future, I will snatch you back shamelessly. Although it's a bit hasty, this magic ring that I personally made can be regarded as an agreement in advance. In the future, when the time is right, we will have an unforgettable grand ceremony. After that, he added another sentence. This is the deepest bond and the best symbiotic contract. Athena's heart was instantly filled with great happiness and surprise. Tears overflowed from her eyes again. This time, it was a sweet taste. Their lips and tongues were tightly intertwined like two hearts. After the affectionate kiss, the two almost couldn't control their emotions. Fortunately, Chenrei finally restrained the desire in his heart. After all, Athena's 20th birthday hadn't arrived yet. He couldn't ruin her best chance to advance to Great Demon King because of a momentary impulse. After calming down for a moment, Athena's low voice sounded. This time, you went to the Shadow Empire. Did you see her? I just met her once. Chenrei didn't want to reveal Christina's identity. He just said that he met her in the palace and then went to the Crystal Valley. Oh. Athena didn't ask further, as if she was just asking casually. It was enough to hear an answer. However, Chenrei still heard the unhappiness in it. He remembered that this heroine promised that she wouldn't be jealous and agreed to accept Christina, even the little princess and Kia. Now, don't think too much. Chenrei shook his head and said, Actually, it's hard for me and her to have a result. When talking about Christina just now, Athena's heart was sour. At this moment, she suddenly felt a sense of guilt, as if she was really a petty, jealous woman. After all, even a self-disciplined person like her father had 12 wives. In contrast, Chenrei did have a pitiful number. She immediately added, By the way, Kia is very pitiful. When she returns from the White Feather Estate with Princess Royal, let her come back here to live. Chenrei glanced at her in surprise. He felt ashamed when he thought that he had Athena, but he still provoked other women. However, since things had reached this point, he definitely couldn't abandon Kia. Fortunately, Kia was included in the acceptable staff by Athena early on. This was thanks to the environment of the demon realm. He was very smart not to say much about this matter. He changed the topic and asked, What's going on with the White Feather Estate? Athena's answer made Chenrei frown. The Dark Moon, the Red Spirit Estate, the White Feather Estate, and the Blue Lava Estate were the 4 major estates of the fallen Angel Empire. The White Feather Estate's Lord Sikali was an admirer of Princess Royal, and he was also the biggest lord who supported the Dark Moon on the surface. This time, he invited Princess Royal to the estate for an official visit. Firstly, it was to show the attitude of the White Feather Estate to the capital. Secondly, it might be to give some assistance to the capital's sanctions. Chenrei knew about the White Feather Estate, but he didn't know that the Lord Sikali was actually an admirer of Jia. There was still a vague feeling between him and Jia. It was more of an ambiguous feeling. When he heard about this now, he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Athena had always misunderstood the relationship between Chenrei and Jia, but she didn't notice his little emotions at the moment. She just sighed. Princess Royal doesn't know about Kia. In order to prevent her from taking the opportunity to make trouble in the estate, she specially took her to the White Feather Estate. The affairs in the estate were handed over to Old Gauss, Old Ford of the Seifel family, and me to take care of. Your method is very effective. After the guards underwent special training, they also wiped out several bandits. It can be considered a big change. The recruitment of new soldiers is also very smooth. It's just that, from time to time, some guys with excess energy will make trouble. They even had a conflict with the Imperial Guards not long ago. Shenrui noticed her tiredness when she came back today, and he hugged her tightly with distress. I'm sorry I've troubled you. Athena shook her head. I'm very happy to be able to help you. I grew up in the barracks since I was a child, and I like that kind of atmosphere very much. Excess energy? Shenrui thought for a moment. Don't worry, I'll find a way to solve it. And Athena moved comfortably on his chest. There were still many trivial troubles, but as soon as this man came back, it was as if he had a backbone. Those complicated things also became simple. Chapter 307. Many of the problems in the barracks were caused by the guys with excessive testosterone secretion and excessive energy. There were several conflicts with the Imperial Guards who had always been wrong. Each time, it resulted in serious injuries. Fortunately, Kaguran, Athena, and Eric still had considerable prestige, so no one was killed. Vitality and drive were also a kind of blood. It should be released rather than blocked. Demons originally had a belligerent nature. If they could be killed, they wouldn't be called demons. Shinrui's method was actually based on the method in the novel he read before, competitive sports. For team sports, there was nothing more attractive than football. This was known as the most popular sport in that world. He believed that its confrontational and teamwork would also be recognized by this world. So, 2 days later, except for the team responsible for the gate and patrol work, the rest of the guards were all gathered in the barracks. In the barracks, the acting sheriff Athena and the chief instructor Eric stood on the stage. After the hellish training some time ago, the guards had completely submitted to the two supreme masters. Their eyes were full of awe. Athena said, 3 days ago, the people who had a conflict with the Imperial Guards step out. Those people didn't hesitate and stood out from the team. Athena's sharp eyes glanced at the dozen of people. She saw these guys lowered their heads guiltily. Do you know your mistake? These people knew that they were in trouble, so they were mentally prepared. They answered yes in unison. Athena pointed to a centaur. You tell me, what's your biggest mistake? Yes, the centaur replied. We shouldn't have fought with the Imperial Guards. It violated Madame Athena's rules. Athena looked at the guards who stood upright. Answer me, is he right? When everyone answered yes in unison, Athena yelled, No! The biggest mistake they made wasn't breaking my rules, but the fact that 15 of them couldn't even defeat 10 of the Imperial Guards. That's a disgrace to the Imperial Guards. Everyone, do you think he should be punished? Athena's words made the guards look at each other, and then a strange excitement appeared on their faces. Even those who stood up were no exception. They shouted in unison. They deserved to be punished. In fact, the progress of the guards was already very fast. In the fight this time, there were casualties on both sides. If it was in the past, even 30 of them would not be able to defeat the Imperial Guards. After the meeting is over, everyone will go to the military judge and receive 20 strokes of the rod. Athena asked again. Everyone, do you think we should fight for our revenge? The voices of the 2,000 people below the stage rang out in unison. Yes. The garrison troops and the Praetorian Guards are the two sharpest scythes in the royal princess's hands. They are also her closest comrades. The blades should be stained with the enemy's blood, not her own. Athena's tone changed. However, the demon realm advocates the strong. Even for us, the garrison troops, there is a competition of survival of the fittest. If the captain can't beat the soldiers, he will still have to return to being an ordinary soldier. I have already obtained Princess Royal's permission through magic communication. There will be a fierce battle competition between us and the Praetorian Guards to determine the winner. Do you want to teach the Praetorian Guards a lesson in front of everyone in the Dark Moon City? Do you want to surpass the Praetorian Guards in the future? Battle competition? These stirred up the enthusiasm of the guards. Their faces showed excitement, and they answered loudly and uniformly. Yes. Athena nodded. Next, Instructor Erix will explain the rules of this battle competition in detail. Erix bowed to Athena, stepped forward, took out a strange spherical object and began to explain. It was not easy to accept a new thing. After explaining a lot, the people below still didn't quite understand. This ball can only be stepped on or hit with the head? And it has to be in the opponent's box? It was useless to talk too much about theory. The best way was to put it into practice. Eric selected 22 soldiers and began the demonstration. Then, accidents began to happen frequently. Everyone chased after the ball regardless of friend or foe. Even the goalkeeper was no exception. Fists, claws, horns and even teeth were used, but not feet. Due to the excessive strength, the goalkeeper kicked directly in front of the opponent's goalkeeper at a distance of 100 meters. The opponent's goalkeeper held the ball and threw it directly back to the goal. The players in the middle could only stare at the ball in the air. A group of heads followed neatly left and right. The poor ball finally couldn't withstand the torment of brutality and burst on the spot. The first football trial was a complete failure. It seemed that copying would not work. It must be improved according to local conditions. The demon realm must have something unique to the demon realm. After some consideration, Chenrui improved the football. The elasticity was greatly reduced. He also engraved a magic circle to increase weight and consumption. It required considerable strength to kick. A few days later, it finally looked like it, but the accident was still the same. An accidental header, the ball was penetrated and hung on a sharp horn. The centaur was a simple-minded person. He thought that it was not a foul to use his head or feet, so he immediately used his horn to connect the ball and rushed all the way. He knocked down all the people who were blocking him, including the goalkeeper. He threw himself into the goal and scored. The opponent's centaur player followed suit. As a result, it became a football game. A centaur rushed toward the goal with the football, and a large group of people behind pulled his arms, legs and pants. In the end, this powerful centaur rushed into the goal naked. In this case, all kinds of weird and wretched tactics emerged one after another. For example, after kickoff, a group of strong men formed a circle and protected the ball in the center. Whoever came would kick the ball. In the end, this circle walked unstoppably into the goal. A disgusting guy actually used his talent to swallow the ball. When others weren't paying attention to looking for the ball, he rushed all the way into the opponent's goal and spat it out. Fortunately, he didn't pull. It wasn't that the goalkeeper didn't have any tricks. When the opponent rushed over, he simply grabbed the crossbar of the goal and pulled it hard. The entire goal sank into the ground. Even the goal was gone. Now, let's see how you're going to score. In the end, Chenrui, who was hiding at the side and laughing wildly while holding his stomach, couldn't stand it anymore. He continued to go back and improve. After countless reforms, the first generation of Demon Realm's hot-blooded football was finally officially born. This ball was made by Chenrui using the refinement of the super system and mechanics. Its texture, elasticity, and firmness were extraordinary. It could be regarded as a master-level work. This ball would absorb power, and it required a lot of strength to kick. When it crossed the goal line, it would also emit a flame-like light, representing victory. The field was widened, and a simple magic circle to increase gravity was deliberately laid. The goal was also reinforced, and so on. Although they still encountered a lot of problems afterward, they were finally solved in time. The guards who adapted to the rules and venue gradually fell in love with this intense battle ball exercise. Not only the guards, but the Imperial Guards also began to try this sport under the leadership of Commander Kaguran. Under Chenrui's proposal, the Guards team and the Imperial Guards team had a competition in the arena that was not open to the public. The audience was only Old Gauss, Athena, Kaguran, and some soldiers from both sides. Since they had not been exposed to this sport for a long time, in addition to the explosive competition scene, they also made a lot of jokes. Finally, they could abide by the rules and persist until the end. In the end, the guards won 10-6. The guards who felt proud were all arrogant. At this time, Old Gauss took the opportunity to announce on behalf of Princess Royal Highness that an open tournament would be held in the arena a month later. At that time, tens of thousands of spectators would come to watch. The winning team would get a generous reward of 50 sets of upper-grade armor. When the confident guards and the Imperial Guards who were unwilling to fail heard the news, they were all full of energy. They were determined to defeat each other in front of all the spectators of the Dark Moon and show their faces ruthlessly. The guards who returned to the barracks seemed very excited. The players were welcomed like heroes, and their morale was unprecedentedly high. More people began to take the initiative to study and participate in this sport. Even though the barracks was spacious and had been divided into 3 fields, it could hardly meet the growing enthusiasm and needs of the guards. Of course, this sport could not completely replace military training. Under Chunrei's suggestion, Athena made corresponding adjustments to the daily training content and arrangements. Those with excellent performance and the fastest progress could have priority to participate in the battle ball activities. Those with outstanding performance would be the representatives of the guards to participate in the open competition with the guards in the arena a month later. In this way, the soldiers were more enthusiastic, and the results were remarkable. The arena controlled by Eryx had begun to be quiet since the heroic deeds of number 64, Aguile. Chunrei launched the battle ball, with the intention of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could it solve the problems of the army, but it could also determine this project as the main profitable project of the arena in the future. Old Gauss admired Chunrei's mind from the bottom of his heart. From the perspective of training, this sport included quality training of strength, speed, endurance, and adaptation to gravity. More importantly, it was teamwork. From the perspective of entertainment, it was a kind of exciting battle that could attract many enthusiasts for a long time. From the perspective of economic benefits, it was a project that could promote the development of the surrounding economy and bring huge benefits. Not only that, in the long run, this kind of activity was likely to cause all residents to pursue and imitate it. It could further improve the combat power and cohesion of the Dark Moon, which was more conducive to the rule of Princess Royal. Since this human came to the Dark Moon, he had brought too many innovations. Many of them were incredible. This time, he created this wonderful battle ball again. Old Gauss was now very glad that such a talent was on his side instead of an enemy. He was also glad that this person still returned to the Dark Moon estate after obtaining a series of promising genius titles. Why didn't Princess Royal consider the marriage proposal? After the success of the arena trial, the follow-up work was handed over to Old Gauss, Eryx and others. Chunrei no longer put his energy in this aspect. After all, compared with the real plan, this was just a small episode. Before rushing to town Moling, he must explain some necessary matters to Jia face-to-face to cooperate with the possible changes in the plan. Also, he still had to tell Kia about Freya. At this moment, an unexpected news came from town Yenko, south of the Dark Moon. Something strange happened in the cemetery of town Yenko. Chapter 308. Town Yenko used to be a famous ancient battlefield where countless corpses were buried. There was also a huge heroic soul cemetery. This time, a lot of strange things happened in the cemetery of the heroic souls. Graves were dug up one by one, and the bones inside were all stolen. Then, a series of incidents occurred in the town where residents went missing. The whole town was shrouded in a terrifying atmosphere. The missing disappeared, and the fleeing fled. The population decreased rapidly. Even the new guards that were sent there had disappeared. It is said that someone has seen a few walking skeletons outside the town, and some people have seen their former acquaintances become unconscious zombies. Athena said. Now the people in town Yenko are unstable. This matter must be resolved as soon as possible. The sheriff was not only responsible for the security of the Dark Moon City, but he was also responsible for the safety of all areas in the estate. This should have been Chunrei's responsibility, but it was not appropriate for him to appear in public at the moment, so it fell on Athena's head. Zombies. Chunrei frowned. Although zombies reminded him of things like Raccoon City and T-Virus immediately, those were just movie plots in the original world. In this plane, only undead magic could be related to these undead creatures. Even in the demon realm, undead magic was not a popular magic. Generally, researchers would choose secluded places such as deep mountains and forests. It was rare to directly attack a densely populated area of the Empire's estate. There is no doubt that there must be a guy who is proficient in undead magic behind the scenes. Delia pondered for a moment. As long as we get rid of this magician, the problem of Town Yenko can naturally be solved. This sentence was agreed by everyone. Athena nodded and said, Yes, I will lead the guards to Town Yenko now to find and kill the magician. I'll go with you. Shenrui, Delia and Lomont said in unison. Paglio said, Delia, you have reached the critical moment of advancing to Great Demon King. I think you may break through at any time in these days, so you must stay. Lomont, you stay behind to protect Delia, just in case. I'm almost sick from being bored in the dark moon during this time. This time, I'll accompany Athena and Shenrui. With me around, that magician will turn into ashes with just a wave of my hand. Due to soul shackles, Delia's advancement was very difficult. She had been stuck at the peak of Demon King for a long time. Lomont's strength was originally below her. Now, he had broken through to Great Demon King, but Delia still couldn't break through this hurdle. Fortunately, there was a wonderful Aurora Frost in the secret underground cave of the original Melon family, which made Delia one step closer to breaking through. As long as she could reach Great Demon King, with the effect of Illusory Shield, the danger of soul shackles on her would be greatly reduced. If he could surpass Bai Luo's realm, then the soul shackles would disappear automatically. However, this was extremely difficult. The best way was to kill Bai Luo. As soon as Lomont heard that Delia had reached the critical moment of breakthrough, he immediately stopped insisting and agreed. In this way, Paglio, Shenrui, and Athena set off to Town Yenko with 50 guards. If they were really going to deal with the magician, 1 or 2 would be enough. The purpose of the guards was to maintain the chaotic order. Eric stayed in the Dark Moon City to continue training the soldiers and organizing the battle ball training. In order not to affect Delia, they also brought along the boar Dodo and the little black horse who didn't like Lomont. Initially, Delia and Athena wanted to name the incubus beast, but the incubus beast was used to hearing Shenrui calling it Little Black Horse, so it actually recognized this low-class name. This made everyone quite speechless. Shenrui naturally wouldn't use his true face, so he just disguised as a magician. Paglio's identity was a swordsman, and the identities of the two were the Whales family's guards from the Warlock Fortress. 4 days later, the team arrived at Town Yenko. Due to the economic depression of the Dark Moon City for decades, several towns in the territory were generally poor and backward. They couldn't be compared with other estates. The population of Town Yenko was originally small. After this incident, it looked even more dilapidated. The first thing Athena did when she entered the town was to find the mayor, Sheik, a great demon with a fat head and big ears. The estate sheriff was equivalent to a real power figure second only to the lord, especially with the army in his hands. The mayor, Sheik, was a member of the Sifo family. He knew Athena's background, so his attitude was extremely flattering. Athena didn't bother to talk to him, so she directly asked about what happened in Town Yenko. Sheik looked like he was afraid of being blamed, and he said hesitantly, About 2 months ago, many graves in the heroic spirit cemetery were excavated. According to the report of the people sent, those graves were actually excavated from the inside out. In other words, the corpses were resurrected, and automatically came out from the inside. Sheik wanted to report this matter to the Dark Moon City at that time, but the defense captain, Hikari, stopped him, saying that further investigation was needed before reporting. Sheik considered that the Melon family and the Sifo family were fighting fiercely at that time. This matter might be used by the Melon family, so he adopted Hikari's opinion. As a result, the situation became more and more serious. Not long ago, even Hikari himself disappeared. Sheik didn't dare to hide it anymore, and he hurriedly reported to the Dark Moon City. Athena frowned. Sheik knew about this matter but didn't report it. He had an unshirkable responsibility. Although she wasn't good at politics, she also understood that the Seifel family was a firm supporter of Princess Royal Jia. It was not the time to pursue responsibility, but to solve the magician as soon as possible. Athena didn't move into Sheik's mayor's mansion. Instead, she came to the original defense station and led the soldiers to move in. At the moment, everyone in the town was in danger. They were in a constant state of anxiety, so they urgently needed to calm the people's hearts. According to Chinrui's opinion, everyone acted separately. Athena integrated the original remaining guards in the town and arranged for people to patrol separately to calm the mood of the townspeople. Peiglio went to the cemetery to investigate the situation, while Chinrui went to the town to further inquire about the information and learn more about the inside story. When Chinrui returned to the defense station, Peiglio had already returned. According to the observation of the poison dragon, there was indeed the breath of undead magic in the heroic soul's cemetery. The purity of the breath was very high. It was more powerful than imagined. Judging from Peiglio's experience, this magician was likely to have reached the demon emperor level. Due to her age and the inheritance power that had not been fully digested, Jia's strength was only at the peak of the great demon king. She was weaker than the other three lords. A demon emperor powerhouse was second to none in the Dark Moon estate. No wonder she dared to openly attack densely populated areas. Of course, this second to none did not include Peiglio. With the effect of the black potions in Aurora Frost, the poison dragon's strength had recovered to the peak of the demon emperor level. Coupled with his original demon overlord combat experience and perception, he should have no opponent at the demon emperor level. Unfortunately, due to the ancient runes, Peiglio could only stop here and could no longer advance. If the opponent was a demon emperor level, there should be no big problem with the poison dragon. Chinrui also gained a lot. He used disguise and other methods to inquire about a lot of information. As the mayor, Sheik's reputation was not very good. He was corrupt and bullied the townspeople. The defense captain, Seaman, was not much better. His means were cruel. Those who offended him would be imprisoned in the secret black prison. There was basically no possibility of survival. If it weren't for the undead incident being too terrifying, Seaman's disappearance this time would make everyone applaud. According to the townspeople, skeletons and zombies had appeared in the direction of the Black Rock Mountain in the north, and the Rock Mountain in the west. The Black Rock Mountain was fine, but the Rock Mountain was originally a haunted place in town Yenko. Some daring people once entered, and none survived. Now, no one dared to approach these two areas. Peiglio nodded and said, "Let's eat something and rest first. We will split up tonight. I will go to the Rock Mountain, and Chenrui will go to the Black Rock Mountain. Put the skeleton made by the undead magician into his mouth." Chenrui frowned and said, "I always feel that this matter doesn't seem so simple. Don't complicate a simple problem. There is no need to hesitate. Just find out the undead magician, and everything will be clear." Peiglio said disapprovingly, and he immediately decided. "Athena is the head of the guards. She will stay here with Dodo. It's just a small undead magician. Shinrui and I can solve it in the shortest time." As night fell, a black shadow appeared in the woods at the foot of the Black Rock Mountain. It was Chinrui who was riding a little black horse. For the sake of caution, Chinrui had already put on a set of equipment. He had always worn Thunderous Sound on his neck. The attribute of the undead's double damage should play a miraculous role in this kind of battle. At this moment, there was a sudden movement in front of them. A white skeleton appeared in their line of sight, followed by another one, and more and more. Under the moonlight that seeped through the forest, the densely packed, jagged white bones made one's hair stand on end. Race, skeleton, undead. Comprehensive strength assessment, E-. Physique, E-. Strength, E. Spirit, F-. Agility, F. The skeletons felt the non-undead breath of Chinrui and the little black horse, so they slowly surrounded them. The moving skeletons made a screeching sound. The comprehensive strength was at the early stage of intermediate demon. For Chinrui and Peiglio, this kind of strength was useless no matter how many there were. Shinrei punched in the air, and his energy hit the skeleton at the front. Its upper body suddenly shattered. Its lower limbs were still walking, but they were quickly destroyed by the turbulent aftermath. Shinrei remembered that Peiglio said that the undead magician liked to use the human wave tactic the most. It was best not to waste power and time in vain. He immediately urged the little black horse to punch quickly along the way, smashing all the nearby skeletons. The little black horse was very fast. Before the skeletons approached, it had already passed through the encirclement quickly. It didn't take long for it to pass through the woods. Although the road was bumpy, the little black horse walked like it was on flat ground. The mountain path of the Black Rock Mountain had been completely occupied by the undead. The combat power of these undead was not strong. The highest zombie leader was only at the early stage of higher demon, but the terrifying number made Shinrei secretly shocked. There are probably thousands of these undead creatures in total. If they form an army, with their immortal characteristics, once they fight against the Dark Moon's garrison army, even if the garrison army can win, the price they have to pay will be quite heavy. What's more, thousands of undead were not necessarily the limit of this magician. Once they reached a sufficient number or even quality, it was enough to threaten the safety of the entire Dark Moon estate. Chapter 309. At the foot of the mountain, a dozen floating figures blocked Shinrei's way. Race, ghost, undead, overall strength, D+. Physique, D+, strength, D+, spirit, D+, agility, D+. Shinrei learned a lot about necromancy from Peiglio, but it was his first time seeing ghosts. They were a bit similar to the ghosts in the legends from his previous life. He looked at them curiously. These ghosts looked like normal people, but their bodies were a bit thin. The parts below the knees seemed to have no substance, which looked very strange. A mutated ghost leader's overall strength had reached C-Demon King level. It was the first to float towards Shinrei. It was very agile. Shinrei jumped off the little black horse and punched at the ghost. However, his fist seemed to hit an illusion and went through it. However, the ghost's attack was definitely not an illusion. When it passed through his arm, a faint blood mark appeared. There was also a numbing and itchy feeling. It seemed that the attack was poisonous. However, this bit of poison had no effect on Shinrei. The attack could only scratch his skin a little. Shinrei punched again. This time, it didn't miss. It felt like he hit a piece of cotton or cloth. There was no force at all. After the ghost was hit, it let out a shrill scream. Its whole body twisted and suddenly disappeared without a trace. It turned out that the punch had blue sparks. It was the lightning attack of thunderous sound. In addition to the attribute of increasing damage to undead creatures by 220%, it killed the ghost leader in one hit. At the same time, a roar came from a room. Which damn guy destroyed my mutated ghost leader? Ghosts were undead creatures transformed from the dead with strong spirit power. They had a strong immunity to physical damage. Sometimes, they could be completely immune. This was the situation that Shinrei encountered with his first punch. Although the power of the second punch was reduced by half, the effect of thunderous sound was special. In addition to the huge difference in strength between the two parties, it caused the ghost leader to be killed. Mutated ghost leaders were very rare, which was why this magician was so angry. Erhan, go and capture this guy for me immediately. Even if he dies, I want his body. Beside him, a black-armored man nodded slightly before turning around and leaving. After killing the leader of the ghosts, Shinrei was afraid that the little black horse would be hurt, so he punched continuously and killed all the ghosts surrounding the little black horse. The man and the horse moved forward for a while. Suddenly, the little black horse became alert and stopped. A black figure appeared on the hillside in front of them. It was a person covered in black armor, and his face could not be seen clearly. He was riding a horse, and that horse was also black. Its jet-black eyes gave off a cold light. Race, Terror Knight, Spectre, Comprehensive Strength Assessment, B. Physique, B-Strength, B+, Spirit, B-, agility, brace, spectral horse, spectre, comprehensive strength assessment, C, physique, C+, strength, C, spirit, D, agility. C. Terra Knights were made from special specters and corpses. They were powerful knights when they were alive, but their souls could not dissipate because of some kind of will or curse. They were reborn as the undead and used resentment and killing as the source of power. They had powerful strength and combat skills. Terra Knights were the highest level creatures that undead magic could create. The magician who could create Terra Knights could be described as top-notch in undead magic. Especially the Terra Knight in front of him had the strength of Great Demon King. It seemed to be the right choice to follow Athena to Town Yenko this time. Otherwise, she would encounter unpredictable danger. The Terra Knight didn't speak. There was a spear in his hand, and he directly rode the spectral horse toward Shinrui. The impact of this combination of manpower and horsepower was quite powerful. Shinrui didn't dare to face it head-on, so he rode the little black horse to dodge. With the communication ability of analytical eyes, he and the little black horse had a very good tacit understanding, but this kind of horsemanship was really a layman. The Terra Knight's original strength quality had reached the peak stage of Great Demon King. Coupled with the impact of unity of man and horse, it was really not suitable to fight head-on. After the other party dodged several times, the Terra Knight's eyes glowed red as if mocking Shinrui's cowardice. Shinrui waved his hand, and the Terra Knight felt that his speed suddenly slowed down. The advantage of horsepower couldn't be exerted, so he immediately pulled the reins and jumped off the horse. The spear in his hand had been replaced by a long sword, and he walked toward Shinrui step by step. Shinrui didn't retreat anymore. He ordered the little black horse to leave and faced the Terra Knight. The Terra Knight's body emitted a faint black mist, and the originally slow movement suddenly accelerated a lot. Weakening the effect of magic? Is it talent or magic? Shinrui was secretly surprised. Before he could think more, the Terra Knight's sword had already slashed with a terrifying wind sound. It seemed that the effect of slow was really greatly reduced. Shinrui didn't use a blade. Instead, he had a rare sword in his hand. When the two swords collided, sparks suddenly splashed everywhere. Shinrui took 4 steps back to stabilize his figure, but the Terra Knight only shook a little. It seemed that Shinrui was really inferior in terms of pure strength. However, the battle wasn't a head-on contest of strength. Shinrui had a scamper under his feet. Coupled with the acceleration of thunderous sound and the remaining slow effect on the Terra Knight, his speed was obviously higher than the opponent. The long sword attacked the opponent like a storm. It was quite a swordsman's style. On the other side, the ghost horse also stared at the little black horse and rushed toward the little black horse. The little black horse didn't dodge like last time. Its body suddenly turned into the true form of the incubus beast. Incubus beast! The magician who was using magic to watch the battle in the distance exclaimed with ecstasy in his voice. The incubus beast can definitely be made into the highest quality ghost horse. Even if only the skeleton is left, it is the best material for the skeleton warhorse. The little black horse's form change was completed in an instant, and it collided with the ghost horse. The ghost horse staggered back and released a strange power of mental oppression. However, the little black horse was completely immune to things like the mind. Similarly, due to the characteristics of the undead, the little black horse's talent of fear had no effect on the ghost horse. However, the little black horse's talent was not only the art of fear. The blue electric light flashed, and the ghost horse emitted blue electric arcs. Its movement was stiff for a moment, and the little black horse had rushed over like the wind. Suddenly it twisted its body and kicked back, hitting the ghost horse's abdomen. The ghost horse was kicked far away and staggered to stand firm. If it was an ordinary magical beast, it might be seriously injured, but the undead didn't feel pain. So, after the ghost horse stood firm, it rushed toward the little black horse again. However, it was obvious that whether it was the talent attack or the strength, the ghost horse was suppressed in an absolute disadvantage. The mutated bloodline of the incubus beast! The necromancer's voice was even more excited. I must get it! Compared with the advantage of the little black horse, the battle situation on Chenrui's side seemed to be restrained. Although his speed was still better than the Terror Knight, his swordsmanship was indeed far inferior to the Terror Knight. Every time the Terror Knight slashed, it could hit the key point that he had to save. Chenrui's swordsmanship was learned from Athena, mainly some basic offensive and defensive movements and timing. It was enough to deal with ordinary opponents, but the Terror Knight's swordsmanship was probably better than Athena's. Obviously, Chenrui was no match for it. Clang! The sword in Chenrui's hand had been knocked away, but it was a flaw that he deliberately revealed. The real killer move was the hand that was not holding the sword. It glowed faintly and slashed at the Terror Knight's head. The Terror Knight's sword miraculously returned to its front, and it blocked with the sword. However, it only blocked the physical body of the palm. The invisible sharp aura had already penetrated the long sword and swept past the Terror Knight's neck. The entire head and helmet suddenly flew up and fell to the ground, but no blood could be seen. When Chenrui was stunned, the Terror Knight who lost his head twisted the lightning-like long sword in his hand, turning it into a dark arc of light that covered him. He was actually not affected at all. Chenrui's teleportation was half a step slower, and blood had already splashed out of his arm. Then, there was an uncomfortable feeling from the wound, as if some corrosive force had invaded it. Fortunately, he had a special physique, so he soon dispersed the force. At this moment, there was a sudden black fog in the field, and a figure wearing a black cloak appeared from the black fog, looking gloomy and scary. Chenrui moved his feet, distancing himself from the Terror Knight, and called the little black horse to return to his side. The Terror Knight did not chase. It walked to the side and picked up the helmet. There seemed to be nothing inside, but when it put back on the head, it lit up with a faint red light. Race, Lich, projection, comprehensive strength. Bit turns out that this undead magician is a Lich, and it's just a projection in front of me. Chenrui suddenly had an unusually familiar feeling. Who are you? How dare you break into my forbidden area? If you want to live, offer your incubus beast with both hands and surrender to me. Chenrui took a deep breath and quickly channeled the power of his body. It's this voice. It turns out to be that old friend. This old friend was not only a stranger to Chenrui, but also to Lomont, Delia, and even Paglio. Lomont and Delia knew each other together with Chenrui in the Silent Night wetland, and Paglio had an intersection with this old friend many years ago, 2,000 years ago, the most outstanding dark magician, undead magician, Garadam. 2,000 years ago, Garadam discovered the Fountain of Vitality in the Silent Night wetland. He killed the original occupier and used it as his secret training place. Who knew that a more ruthless character came later and killed Garadam? Garadam took the underground cave of the Fountain of Vitality as his place to place his treasures. This ruthless character was Paglio. However, Paglio did not expect that Garadam, who was easily killed by him, could actually use undead magic to fake his death. Then, when he was imprisoned in the treasure cave, he took a great risk and transformed his body into an immortal lich. As a result, Chenrui almost lost his life in Garadam's hands when he was exploring the treasure. In the end, he used the resurrection potion to severely injure Garadam and successfully obtained the treasure to escape. The Lich Garadam was the director of the entire town Yenko undead incident. Chapter 310. Although the strength of this projection was only at the Great Demon King level, if he teamed up with the Terror Knight, it would be difficult for Chenrui to win. Moreover, Garadam's true strength was at the Demon Emperor level, which wasn't something that Chenrui could contend with at the moment. However, he was using an unfamiliar face now, so Garadam shouldn't recognize him. Chenrui thought of something and bowed. He replied, "Honorable Sir Undead Magician, I'm an investigator who came to town Yenko from the Dark Moon City to investigate the disappearance of the town's population. May I ask, sir, the dead bodies in the cemetery should be enough for sir to use. Why do you still want to plunder those powerless townspeople?" Investigator? Garadam felt that this enemy was at the Great Demon King level. He should be able to win with just the projection and the Terror Knight, so he sneered. Humph! I'm just borrowing the dead bodies in the cemetery. As for the living, I don't plan to turn all living people into undead for the time being, except for those who come to me like you. However, when my experiment is successful, I don't mind turning the entire town or even the entire estate into a paradise for undead creatures. Chinray frowned. Garadam shouldn't have the need to lie in this situation, so what about the missing people in the town, including the defense captain, Seaman? As Garadam was about to speak, he suddenly sensed something. His face changed drastically and he roared. The altar in the west was destroyed! Damn it! Chinray's eyes lit up. It should be the poison dragon who succeeded. It must be your accomplice. How dare you destroy my most important life box recovery plan? I'm going to tear you into pieces! Garadam roared and suddenly pointed to the ground. A large number of terrifying arms grew from the ground, grabbing Chinray and a little black horse firmly. Chinray had experienced this trick in the Crystal Valley's death match. Although he was shocked, he didn't panic. The little black horse looked very panicked. It used all its talents, but it couldn't break free for a while. From Garadam's words, Chinray heard some clues. It turned out that the trauma caused by the resurrection potion when the corpse necromancer was splashed last time was far beyond imagination. It even affected the soul essence in the life box. Then, the reason why Garadam did so many things in Town Yanko should be that he wanted to use the death and soul power of the ancient battlefield to restore the phylactery. But he didn't expect to meet his old enemy again. The necromancer gritted his teeth and said, "No! I can't let you off like this. I want to turn your body into the most despicable skeleton, then pull out your soul and let it suffer eternal torment in the netherworld fire. Not only that, everyone in this damn town will be buried with me for ruining my plans." Garadam chanted, and the mountain wind suddenly became chilling. A lot of black mist came out from his body, mixed with faint light. It rose into the sky and formed a black cloud. Even the moonlight became dim. Chinray could feel that this black cloud was filled with terrifying and evil power. This is the strongest death technique hell prison that I created by combining dark magic and undead magic. It can devour the vitality of all living creatures in the range and turn them all into immortal undead. Even a great demon king can't be spared. I want you to open your fearful eyes and see how these people become dry corpses. Finally, I will slowly torture you. Garadam raised his hands to the sky, and the black clouds slowly drifted in the direction of Town Yenko. At this moment, he suddenly heard a voice. Garadam! Garadam's real name was suddenly called out, and he was taken aback. There was suddenly a strange mask on the enemy's face. Garadam seemed to have seen something incredible. His hands actually trembled a little, mixed with shock and anger. You! As soon as he finished speaking, the dark clouds that had just drifted away in the sky seemed to have encountered a strong attraction force and quickly returned. A huge amount of mental strength and magic surged into the mask like a tide, instantly thinning out and then disappearing without a trace. The mask disappeared again, revealing a familiar face to Garadam. He smiled and said, "Sir Corpse Necromancer, to be precise, it's a projection. Long time no see." "It's you!" Garadam screamed hysterically, and his hatred instantly rose to the peak. He could never forget this face. In the Silent Night wetland, it was this guy who repeatedly destroyed his perfect plan. In the end, he even took away all the treasures. Even his phylactery was almost taken away by this person. The reason why he came to the ruins of this ancient battlefield, and painstakingly built an altar to recover his damaged soul essence was also thanks to this person. New hatred and old hatred surged up together. Garadam's eyes glowed with a strong red light, but he didn't dare to act rashly because the opponent's body had already emitted black flames. He had already suffered a lot from this kind of flame power in the Silent Night wetland. It was the nemesis of the undead power. Moreover, Hell Prison almost exhausted the spirit power and magic power of this projection just now. After it was devoured, he couldn't cast magic for a while. "Kill him!" Garadam issued an order to the Dread Knight. The Dread Knight immediately waved his sword and rushed toward Shenrei. The white light in Shenrei's hand shone brightly, and a huge light ball was launched at the Dread Knight. The Dread Knight noticed the destructive power of the white light, but it was too late to dodge. His sword faintly glowed red. He blocked with his sword, but his body was pushed back by the huge pressure of Aurora's shot, leaving a shocking trace of retreat on the ground. While the Dread Knight was blocking Aurora's shot, Shenrei's figure flickered. He punched the corpse necromancer with his Nirvana's flame. The corpse necromancer couldn't cast magic, but the strange power of spirit power to devour flesh and blood still existed. However, this enemy's power was extremely strange. Even without this kind of terrifying black fire, he didn't dare to use the devouring power. He remembered that he was almost trapped in this enemy's territory of consciousness last time, and he almost couldn't get out. The corpse necromancer didn't dare to take it head-on, and he immediately floated back. However, how could the magician who had lost all his advantages beat Shenrei's opponent in close combat? Suddenly, he felt a dangerous breath behind him. When he turned around, he saw that Shenrei had appeared behind him in an instant, and Shenrei's fist penetrated his body. Although the corpse necromancer's form was not afraid of any physical attack, the black fire was an absolute nemesis. Coupled with the double damage to the undead increased by the thunderous sound, this punch caused the projection to be severely injured. Shenrei didn't give him a chance to breathe. He launched continuous attacks. The corpse necromancer who was hit by the black fire let out a shrill scream. When the Dread Knight tried his best to cut Aurora's shot in half, the corpse necromancer's body was already covered with deadly flames. "Don't think that you can stop my real body by destroying the projection! I'm going to make the whole town!" Shenrei was taken aback. The current Garadam was no longer the corpse necromancer who was confined in the treasure. After escaping from the Silent Night wetland, he was likely to have or recover many terrifying means. Although he devoured the projected hell prison, this was not the territory that the corpse necromancer's real body desperately released at the treasure last time. It was likely that the demon emperor-level body still had quite a terrifying power. Judging from the words before the projection was destroyed, Garadam's real body was likely to be near town Yenko, or even in the town. Meanwhile, Athena and Dodo were in the town. I don't know if Paglio has returned at this time. In any case, I can't stay here for a long time. I must return to Athena immediately. As soon as Shenrei thought of this, he continuously attacked the Dread Knight with Aurora's shot. When the Dread Knight parried and dodged, Shenrei had already rushed to the ghost horse that was fighting with the little black horse. He waved his hand. Before he touched the ghost horse, the sharp chi in the air hit it like lightning. The ghost horse neighed as its front leg was cut off like a sharp blade. Shenrei was not in the mood to fight. He rode on the little black horse and ran back at full speed. The Dread Knight was much more experienced in dealing with Aurora's shot this time, but when he cleverly used his sword power to offset the terrifying power, he saw the ghost horse limping unsteadily, and the enemy had quickly rushed down the mountain. The two red lights in the black helmet shone brightly. The long sword was inserted into the ground fiercely, venting his anger at the enemy's cowardice. Shenrei wasn't in the mood to think about the Dread Knight's thoughts. The Dread Knight's swordsmanship and strength were very powerful. He couldn't win in a short time. The situation in town Yenko was urgent. He couldn't waste any more time and energy here. He must rush back immediately. The full strength running of the incubus beast was no trivial matter. Coupled with Shenrei's attack, they had already rushed out of the woods after killing a path among the large number of skeletons. Looking from a distance, the entire town Yenko had been shrouded in a layer of black mist, which looked strange and unpredictable. Shenrei was shocked. The spiritual little black horse understood his worries. Flames appeared on its hooves, and its speed increased again. It burned toward the strange and dark abyss like a lightning flame. One man and one horse had approached the black mist. The mist seemed to have the effect of confusing the mind. The little black horse and Shenrei were not affected, and they rushed straight in. The scene of the town made Shenrei's heart sink. The whole town was lifeless. There was not even a sound of dogs barking. The guards and patrolling soldiers had fallen to the ground. There were also some fallen figures on the street in front. These people seemed to still be breathing, but they had lost consciousness under the effect of the black mist. Am I still a step slower? Chenrei was anxious. He rode the little black horse to the guard station. Since the devouring power of the God-eating mask had been used once in the Black Rock Mountain, it could only be used after 7 days. At present, he could only use the Nirvana flame with the scorching dragon possession to delay it. He didn't know if he could delay it until Paglio returned. Before he arrived, he felt the surging power fluctuations in front of him. Sometimes it was a gloomy and terrifying dead energy, and sometimes it was changed into a strange and unpredictable power. This kind of power made Chenrei finally feel relieved. It's Paglio. In front of the guard station, there was no one standing except for 3 figures. Athena had turned into her combat form. Her body was burning with flames. In her hand was the new pupil of raging flame that Chenrei gave her. Dodo stood on her shoulder, baring his teeth. He looked fierce, but no matter how one looked at it, he looked a bit fierce on the outside but weak on the inside. The 2 people had the strongest collision of power. The black robe was suspended in the air. It was Garadam's real body. Opposite him was the black-haired robe and robust Paglio. Now the old friend, from 2,000 years ago, also met. Garadam was killed by Paglio in seconds back then. He only remembered that it was a terrifying dragon. He had never seen this human body, so he didn't recognize Paglio. In the sinister laughter, a huge blood-red scythe appeared in his hand and slashed toward Paglio. Paglio's figure suddenly appeared in front of the scythe that was launched at high speed. He stretched out his finger, and the strongest single attack of dark magic, Dark Moonblood Scythe, was corroded at a speed visible to the naked eye before it could unleash its power. It turned into particles and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the poison dragon's figure returned to its original position as if he had never attacked. What kind of power is this? Is it poison? It can even corrode the energy body condensed by magic elements. Garadam was taken aback. He had never seen anyone who could break magic like this. Besides, that kind of terrifying power was quite strange. This man's strength is unfathomable. Even if he was at his peak, he might not be his opponent. Such a powerhouse is hard to see even in an estate. Why would he come to such a remote town? Paglio said disdainfully. Stop talking nonsense! I hate skeletons the most. Garadam snorted coldly. Now the entire town is under my territory, Death's Shadow. I can absorb all the vitality in it as the source of power. You may not be able to beat me. The poison dragon didn't speak, but another voice sounded. Garadam, I have devoured most of your spirit power, yet you still came to die. You can't escape this time. When Athena heard Chenrei's voice, she suddenly showed joy. Then, she saw a figure burning in black flames, followed by a horse. The flames seemed to be the nemesis of death power. The surrounding black mist was melted like ice and snow, and it couldn't be closed. This familiar figure made the corpse necromancer show strong hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, Where's my Terror Knight? You should worry about yourself. Chenrei smiled confidently. This time, you won't be as lucky as last time. Mentioning the last time, the dark power of the corpse necromancer's whole body surged because of anger. Hand over the treasure. I can give you a quick death. Otherwise, even with the protection of this man, you can't escape the power of the Death's Shadow. When Paglio heard the word treasure, his ears suddenly perked up. He looked at Chenrei with burning eyes. This cunning and greedy human actually got another treasure, and he still wants to hide it from Sir Paglio. How could Chenrei not know the temperament of the poison dragon? He knew what this dead duck dragon was thinking when he saw this kind of gaze. He said impatiently, This skeleton is talking about the treasure of the Silent Night wetland. Do you understand? Paglio suddenly showed a look of realization. Treasure, corpse necromancer, so that's it. Garadam was still threatening on this side. I'll give you the last 3 seconds to consider. Hand over all my treasures. As soon as he finished speaking, the corpse necromancer suddenly felt a strong murderous aura. It actually came from the mysterious man. The man gritted his teeth and asked, "Your treasure?" Chapter 3:11. Paglio pointed to the sky, and all the black mist began to change color quickly. It gradually turned from the original black to a pale green. This was not just a simple color change, but the suppression and erosion of the territory's power. Garadam only felt that the power of the territory seemed to be swallowed by countless terrifying demonic beasts. It began to shrink rapidly. In the process of shrinking, it produced a strong backfire. He couldn't help but howl in pain. Shenrui had come to Athena with the little black horse. When he saw Paglio's display of power, he despised in his heart, "A dragon has a reverse scale, and it will be enraged if touched." At this time, the poison dragon's reverse scale is nothing more than treasures. What a dead duck dragon who loves money as much as his life! If Garadam's soul essence was not hurt, and if the projection's spirit power was not swallowed, he shouldn't be defeated so easily. Unfortunately, there were not so many ifs. At present, his territory had been completely eroded by Paglio's poison, and he was restrained by it instead. He could barely use the remaining magic to create a protective area to get a chance to breathe. Shenrui shook his head and sighed. "I forgot to introduce to you. This greedy, powerhouse who is good at financial management is the real owner of your treasure, Paglio." The 2 red lights in Garadam's eyes suddenly solidified, and they fell on the man who pointed to the sky with one hand as if he saw something incredible. If he was still a human now, he must be sweating profusely. Paglio put down his hand and grinned at him. A powerful dragon's demeanor emanated. Although this dragon's demeanor was not an absolute suppressive force for Garadam, the things confirmed by the dragon's demeanor were enough to make him terrified. Garadam's body trembled slightly. As a necromancer who transformed himself into a corpse necromancer, he was already immune to the mind magic such as fear and chaos. But at this moment, he was terrified from the bottom of his heart. This man was a giant dragon. And it's the terrifying dragon that easily pinched me to death like an ant. Over the years, although I've been cursing the enemy who killed me all the time, I'm more afraid. Who would have thought that there would be a day when he would have to face such a terrifying enemy? Paglio, no matter what, this guy is still the most outstanding necromancer of 2,000 years ago. It would be a pity to kill him like this. If he surrenders, we might as well spare his life. Shenrui took the opportunity to say that Garadam's ability is indeed great. If such a powerful undead magician can be subdued, it is likely to play a key role in the future war. Just the undead army alone was enough to intimidate the enemy. After all, Garadam was not an ordinary character. He had recovered from the horror. He gritted his teeth and said, "Even if you destroy my body now, as long as my phylactery is still there, I will never die. When I recover my strength, I will turn the entire Dark Moon estate into the land of the undead. It's none of my business even if you turn the entire Fallen Angel Empire into a country of the undead." Shenrui deliberately put on a nonchalant look and laughed. "Could it be that you are naive enough to think that I am really an investigator of some territory? Let me tell you, I tracked you here. Otherwise, why would I bring along the dragons that you are most afraid of? Impossible! How do you know I'm here?" Paglio said. "Don't talk to him. This skeleton has set up a white bone altar in the west. There should also be one on the mountain in the north. This is an ancient undead ritual that can use the air of the undead to restore the soul essence. Then his phylactery must be in the area of this town, or even in the town. When I destroy his body and destroy his phylactery, let's see how this annoying skeleton jumps around." Garadam was shocked. He didn't expect the other party to see through the role and origin of this ritual at a glance. He also inferred the rough location of the phylactery. He is indeed a terrifying dragon. "Garadam, you have no choice," Shenrui thought. "I have 3 ways to completely destroy your phylactery immediately. First, Paleo will completely infiltrate the underground of this town. It can annihilate everything within a radius of tens of miles, including your phylactery. You have seen the second method. I will use space magic to swallow the entire town and then banish it into the space turbulence. You should know that I have this ability. The third method. Remember that water last time? This is called the Fountain of Resurrection. It is something that can cause fatal damage to your soul essence. Chinrei's hand suddenly dripped a strange spring water. The vigorous breath made the corpse necromancer instinctively feel uncomfortable. This method is to infiltrate these into the ground, then cast a mystic art to form a special territory that can destroy all the undead power within a radius of 100 miles, including the soul essence in your phylactery. Garadam's body began to tremble again. He had to admit that these three methods were not to scare people. Once the other party was determined to destroy him, he would probably be doomed. In fact, Chenrei's three methods were really bluffing. With Pagleo's current Demon Emperor level power, he couldn't cast the real poison territory. Besides, the price was too high. Even if he sacrificed the lives of the entire town, he might not succeed. The second method was also unreliable. Space magic was simply a storage space. As for the space turbulence, it was pure nonsense. Chinrei just heard this term from Samuel. The third method was even more f***ed up. The Fountain of Resurrection and the Resurrection Potion were two completely different concepts. The Fountain of Resurrection might have a certain suppression effect on Garadam, but it was definitely not as strong as the Resurrection Potion. Moreover, the Fountain of Resurrection was only the size of a pit, so it was impossible to infiltrate the entire town. Chinrei added, "Perhaps I will be ridiculously merciful. In order not to sacrifice the innocent lives of this town, I will let your phylactery go." This sentence made Garadam have no other thoughts at all. He himself was a ruthless person who judged others by himself. He would never give up an enemy who might be a great threat for the lives of some ants. What's more, the dragons were obviously a ruthless character. It could be seen from the fact that they killed him in the Silent Night wetland 2,000 years ago. Garadam suddenly laughed. His hysterical laughter was full of grief and despair. "I can't believe that I, Garadam, didn't die in the Silent Night wetland, but in this kind of place. However, don't be complacent too early. My phylactery is engraved with the magic circle of the Curse of Destruction. As long as it is detonated, the plague and curse will spread around with this town as the center until the entire estate. You will also be cursed by my last soul power. At that time, misfortune will accompany you for life until death." Chenrei was secretly shocked. This guy actually has a move to destroy indiscriminately. I have personally experienced the curse of misfortune. If I am entangled by this annoying magic for a lifetime, it is indeed quite troublesome. Not to mention that the explosion of the phylactery will also cause a large-scale disaster in the Dark Moon Estate. I must not let this happen. In fact, Garadam was afraid of both sides now. He thought that the threat of the curse of misfortune was not enough to make the other party give up his killing intent. As for the plague disaster, these people wouldn't even care. It was not a threat at all. "Even if what you said is true, you can't threaten me," Chenrei sneered. "I know a human powerhouse in the capital named Nero. He is the priest of the Light Divinity Temple in the human world. He has reached the demon overlord level. He must be able to dispel this curse. However, I'm very curious. Corpse Necromancer has a long life. You also took a lot of risks to transform into a Corpse Necromancer. It was not easy for you to succeed. If you self-destruct like this, it is equivalent to voluntarily giving up the immortal body that was converted with great difficulty. Is it worth it?" Garadam actually didn't want to die. Chenrei was right. He risked his life to successfully transform himself into an undead creature. With endless life, he could further research and develop the undead magic that he loved. If he died in this place, he would definitely be very unwilling. When the corpse necromancer heard the other party talking about the human light priest, his heart suddenly sank. Light magic was an effective way to restrain the curse. Besides, he was a demon overlord powerhouse, but he still said without showing any weakness. I created a separate undead magic system from the dark magic. I can be called the most outstanding undead magic master in the history of the demon realm. How can I succumb to such barbaric and shameful guys like you? Besides, I don't believe that the human light priest will appear in the demon realm. Not only will I be plagued by bad luck, but I will also do everything I can to curse you before I die. Chunrui could see that Garatam already thought that he had no way out. If he continued to force him, he would definitely perish together. However, if he relented at this moment, then this guy would immediately escape. After that, he would retaliate madly against Town Yenko and even the entire Dark Moon. Next time, he would never make the same mistake and put the life box in danger. An undead magician enemy who was hiding in the dark and could not be killed, and it was even a demon emperor level. It was indeed quite a headache. He was in a dilemma for a while. When Athena heard that the disease and curse would spread in Princess Royal's territory, she was anxious, but she did not say anything out of trust in the man. However, the poison dragon did not intend to let Garatam go. He showed an impatient look. Don't talk nonsense with him. Break this skeleton first, then no matter how his life box explodes, with the protection of my territory, any damn curse can't hurt you at all. It was just that after hearing the poison dragon's words, Garatam's heart was even more desperate. As he was about to risk everything to detonate the magic circle, a voice suddenly sounded. Ridiculous guy, let me tell you one thing before you die. You are definitely not the most outstanding undead magic master in the demon realm, and the undead magic system has already existed since ancient times. What you know now is just the tip of the iceberg. Garatam was furious. This was his most conceited glory. 2,000 years ago, he had surpassed all predecessors who studied undead magic and raised the undead magic to an unprecedented height. Around 2 years ago, the undead magic stayed at the level of his research, and there was no progress. Now, this enemy was actually questioning his greatest achievement. This was simply intolerable. Chunrui saw Garatam's exasperated look and knew that he had successfully diverted the opponent's attention. He then said, I got the inheritance of an ancient Grand Master and learned a lot of secrets. Undead magic is indeed derived from dark magic, but it belongs to a separate system. Its power is no less than dark magic. It's like a separate space magic derived from water and air magic. Unfortunately, due to various reasons, it has been lost now. Moreover, even the relevant records have disappeared with the passage of time. Garatam's eyes flashed with red light. He was obviously a little surprised. He had studied undead magic all his life, but he had never heard of such so-called secrets. As he was about to refute, he heard the other party go on to say, From the inheritance I got, the ancient undead magic system is divided into 3 categories. The first is summoning transformation, the second is cursing, and the third is bone and poison. There are many magic branches in each category. I can reveal 2. There is a magic of summoning transformation that can transform a skeleton into a skeleton mage that releases elements. It can cast long-range elemental attacks which are very powerful. The bone and poison category has a kind of bone armor that surrounds the body. It can use the mysterious rotation rhythm and the power of the undead to offset, weaken, and absorb all external attacks. Garatam was an expert in undead magic. As soon as he heard it, he knew that these 2 kinds of magic were completely feasible. It was not a nonsense made up by the other party. This so-called 3 categories of system came from a classic game that was popular all over the world. It was one of Chunrui's favorite games in that world. There was a role of a necromancer in it. Chunrui just described the skills with slight changes, and it really tempted Garatam. According to Chunrui's understanding, the origin of power development to the ultimate was the same, but the form of expression was different. Magic was a form of expression. As long as there was creativity and understanding, the imagined magic might not be impossible to put into practice. The magic derivation, innovation, and improvement of the 6 major elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and dark also came from this. Garatam's current research had actually reached a peak state. In other words, it was equivalent to reaching a bottleneck. It was very difficult to make progress and innovate. Hearing this statement, his eyes lit up. The narrow road suddenly became wide and full of countless possibilities. He was suddenly greatly moved. After thinking about it carefully, he couldn't wait to find a place to study quietly. He quickly asked, "What else?" Chenrui saw Garadam's tempted look, and he knew in his heart, Garadam is arrogant, insidious, and ruthless. If I force him to give in, it may backfire. It's better to change the angle and lure him first, than use both carrot and stick. Sir Garadam, you should know that there is no free thing in this world. The more so-called free things are, the higher the price you need to pay. You have heard the content of 2 ancient undead magic for free. I think it's time to discuss the price next. Or perhaps, our original hostile relationship can be changed because of some cooperation? Chapter 312. I have to admit that the story you made up is very tempting, but it's not enough to convince me. Garadam thought for a while and sneered. If you said that you saw these 2 ancient magics from a lost ancient book, I would still believe it a little. The inheritance of the ancient Grand Master, don't you think it's ridiculous? In my opinion, just kill him directly. Why are you talking to this ignorant skeleton? Paiglio interjected disdainfully. Be patient, my partner. Chenrei smiled slightly. I just want to find a candidate to recreate the glory of the ancient undead magic. Give him the final time to choose. Partner? Paiglio's attitude and Chenrei's address made Garadam secretly shocked. This guy is actually a dragon knight. But the difference in strength between the two sides is too huge. How is it possible? Judging from the tone of the dragons, the ancient Grand Master thing doesn't seem to be a lie. Do you remember how your life box was damaged? Chenrei wanted to add fuel to the fire. He took out a bottle of black potion and uncorked the bottle. Or do you know what potion the Fountain of Resurrection is used to make? The breath emitted by the black potion made Garadam shudder. Yes, it is this terrifying potion. At that time, my soul essence was severely damaged with an unimaginable effect. Wait, that was the Fountain of Resurrection just now then. Resurrection potion! Garadam was shocked and blurted out. He finally confirmed his long-standing suspicion. What kind of poison can cause that kind of damage to the soul essence in the life box? It's actually the black potion that has been lost for 7,000 years. No, including the 2,000 years in the Silent Night wetland, it should be nearly 10,000 years. Not only that, even the famous potion Grand Master Rosenbach from more than 9,000 years ago was said to stop at the Eternal Potion. Now, this enemy actually has the Resurrection Potion that represents the highest achievement of pharmaceutics. Other than the inheritance of the ancient Grand Master, the corpse necromancer couldn't find a more reasonable explanation. Once this guy announces his pharmaceutics achievement, he will definitely shock the entire demon realm and become the most popular Grand Master. It was just that Garadam didn't know that Chenrei's other identity, as a trio-specialized mechanic master, had already shocked the entire demon realm. Garadam's gaze toward Chenrei changed a little. The first potion Grand Master of the demon realm in 10,000 years, and he got the inheritance of the ancient Grand Master. No wonder even such powerful dragons recognize him as a partner. In that case, the system of ancient necromancy magic was real? In that case, reviving the glory of ancient undead magic was not a lie. Garadam felt a burst of heat in his heart. His previous determination to die had already been reduced by more than half. If he can inherit the ancient undead magic system and carry it forward, then he will truly become the top undead magic person since ancient times. After a moment of silence, Garadam finally made a choice. Now that he had been forced into a dead end, even if he self-detonated, he wouldn't be able to perish together with his enemies. He could only die a worthless death. Moreover, the ancient undead magic system was too tempting. He couldn't help but be tempted. Powerful dragons, I can sign a contract with you. Garadam groaned. It's not a master-servant contract, but an equality contract. According to that guy, We can be in a cooperative relationship. In your dreams. Peiglio snorted coldly and revealed his murderous intent. Skeleton, in the current situation, you are not qualified to mention the word equality. If it weren't for my partner, I would have destroyed you long ago. This lord hates stubborn fellows the most. Since you're so insistent, then. As soon as he finished speaking, the power in the poison dragon's territory suddenly doubled. The oppressive force made the corpse necromancer's defense circle smaller and smaller. In fact, Peiglio was also a cunning guy. He understood that Chunrei had other plans. This tough attitude was just to cooperate with Chunrei. If it was the previous corpse necromancer, he would probably detonate his phylactery under the determination to die with honor. But now, under the coercion and temptation of Chunrei and Peiglio, Garadam's desire to survive took over. It was difficult for him to return to his previous mentality of being determined to die. He hurriedly shouted, "Subordinate contract! This is my last bottom line. My life is longer than the dragon's. I can use endless time to study undead magic. I must not interrupt it because of some accident." The subordinate contract was a high-level contract, second only to the equality contract. It was equivalent to the restrictive relationship between the monarch and his subjects. If the two parties signed a contract, the subordinate Garadam had his own intentions. He generally obeyed orders and couldn't betray, but Peiglio also couldn't control his life and death. Once Peiglio died, the contract would be terminated. It wasn't like the master-servant contract where the master could control the servant's life and death. Moreover, when the master died, the servant would also die. Peiglio looked thoughtful. He looked at Chunrei's eyes and replied, "Yes, but your contract partner is not me, but him." "Him?" Garadam was taken aback. "If I sign a subordinate contract with the powerful dragons, I can still accept it in my heart. However, this guy in front of me is just a great demon king. By the way, he was only a demon king last time." Garadam suddenly remembered. Last time, this person hasn't reached the peak of demon king yet. How did he reach great demon king so quickly? The time in between. "Yes, it's me." Chunrei knew the reason for Garadam's hesitation. "I'm the inheritor of the ancient Grand Master. Similarly, I'm the only one in the entire demon realm who knows the ancient undead magic system. In fact, this is good for you. My life is definitely not as long as the dragon's. Even if I die of old age, your contract time is only a few hundred years." Garadam thought quickly. The last sentence is right. If I sign a contract with the dragons, then I will probably have to surrender for tens of thousands of years. However, signing a contract with this, demons, will definitely take a much shorter time. Moreover, this person has the inheritance of the ancient Grand Master, so he is at least a potion Grand Master. His potential is quite terrifying. In just a few months, he has soared from Demon King to Great Demon King. He is likely to become a demon overlord powerhouse in the future, so it isn't a humiliation. Judging from the current passive situation on my side, signing a contract with this person is the perfect result. In the end, Garadam made up his mind to sign a subordinate contract with Chunrei. The poor corpse necromancer didn't know that he was tricked. Due to the symbiotic contract, under normal circumstances, the time of this subordination would be at least tens of thousands of years. However, Chunrei really didn't make long-term plans for thousands of years or tens of thousands of years later. He would think about the future in the future. As a condition of signing the contract, the corpse necromancer proposed to turn Yenko village into his own experimental base. This used to be an ancient battlefield with many powerful souls and bones. The Terror Knight with excellent swordsmanship that Chunrei encountered was transformed from the bones of a rare powerhouse. There were originally 2 such top-level Terror Knights, but unfortunately, the one guarding the west altar was killed by Peiglio. Chunrei hesitated for a while. He discussed with Athena for a while and agreed. Originally, Town Yenko was a remote town which was barren and backward. Moreover, Chunrei and Jia had long had plans to rebuild the towns in the estate. Town Yenko was one of the objects that needed to be migrated in the plan. This request seemed difficult, but in fact, it was just going with the flow. After the contract was signed, the spiritual link of the super system added another item, the subordinate contract. This contract was somewhat similar to Samuel's blood oath of light, which could be interrupted and cancelled. Since the subordination relationship was confirmed, Chinray didn't keep him guessing anymore. He said the skills system of the necromancer in Diablo 2 in his memory. This used to be one of his favorite games, so he remembered the information very clearly. He also made appropriate modifications to some of the contents. For example, there were skeleton soldiers, zombies, ghosts, skeleton mages, terror knights, and so on in the summoning and transformation category. There was also the phantom dragon, the ultimate undead soldier in Heroes of Might and Magic. This had already appeared in Mountain Shilang anyway. As for the vampire, golem, and so on, they were omitted due to some concerns. Some things in the curse category overlapped with dark magic, so Chinray selectively added or subtracted a part. As for the white bone and poison category, the white bone armor, bone prison, poison explosion, and corpse explosion, he explained them in detail. This complete magic system brought considerable inspiration to Garadam. Some of those magic and attack forms were incredible, but some could be achieved in a short time. Some could be further improved and innovated. The two red lights in the corpse necromancer's eyes shone brightly. The unwillingness in his heart because he was forced to sign the subordinate contract was immediately forgotten. He couldn't wait to start trying immediately. However, the most important thing now was to restore the soul essence in the life box first. After the territory dissipated, the mist in the town gradually dissipated. The unconscious people gradually woke up and returned to normal. However, some things still needed to be clarified. In the mayor's mansion, Mayor Sheik was sitting on the ground, shivering. His clothes were soaked in cold sweat. Opposite Sheik was a skeleton in a robe. Its eyes emitted a gloomy red light, but its cold voice carried a bit of creepy joy. This fresh body has a high fat content. It's quite good. It can be used as an experimental subject to study corpse explosion. Sheik thought of the legendary terrible experiment of the undead magician. He trembled and crawled to the side of Athena. Madam Athena, I'll tell you everything. Please, for the sake of the Seifel family, don't hand me over to this Sir Undead Magician as an experimental subject. Athena showed disgust. Chinray stepped forward and blocked in front of Athena. He shouted, "Hurry up! What is the truth about the disappearance of the townspeople and Hikari?" Sheik lowered his head, and his eyes rolled. He was obviously thinking of an idea. Garadam's cold voice sounded, "I can see that this fat pig is a stubborn type. There's no need to ask. I will naturally know the answer when I extract his soul later." Who is the stubborn type? When Sheik heard about extracting the soul, he was so scared that he almost peed in his pants. He didn't dare to be perfunctory, so he immediately said it. It turned out that Sheik relied on the Seifel family's background. As the mayor, he had been colluding with the defense captain, Hikari, to rule town Yenko with bloody and violent means. He was like a local tyrant in this remote place. One day a few years ago, several townspeople discovered a green crystal mine in the middle of Rock Mountain in the west. Sheik identified it as the rare magic material, jade ice crystal. After exploration, Rock Mountain contained a relatively rich jade ice crystal mineral deposit. In order to monopolize this huge wealth, Sheik not only did not report this matter to the Dark Moon City, but he blocked the news and killed the first people who discovered the ore. However, this matter was still discovered by the defense captain, Hikari. Sheik also knew that this wealth was huge and he couldn't swallow it alone, so he simply pulled Hikari into the team, and they shared it. Many townspeople who had committed minor mistakes or even no crimes at all were imprisoned and controlled by Hikari under various excuses. They were forced to go to Rock Mountain to mine ores by cruel means and sold to the Blue Lava Estate and Red Spirit Estate through various channels. Over the years, it was unknown how many lives were harmed. Every piece of jade ice crystal mine that was transported out, and every black crystal coin in their pockets were stained with blood and whales. In order to cover up the black mine of Rock Mountain, the two also fabricated an excuse that there were undead creatures in Rock Mountain and spread rumors, making it a haunted place that no one dared to approach. Who knew that there would be a tiger after climbing the mountain? They didn't expect a powerful undead to really appear in Rock Mountain, which was equivalent to cutting off their long-term source of wealth. They were at a loss for a while. At this time, it just so happened that Athena took over the sheriff and vigorously reorganized the defense army. The defense captain, Hikari, was asked to return to the Dark Moon City to work. Hikari secretly thought that once he returned, the Jade Ice Crystal Mine would probably be monopolized by Sheik in the future, so he immediately proposed a huge sum of money as compensation. Firstly, Sheik was unwilling to pay this huge sum of money. Secondly, he was also afraid that Hikari would repeatedly blackmail him, or reveal this matter directly. So, he simply poisoned Hikari and killed him. He pretended to be missing and pushed all the blame to the mysterious event of the undead creatures. She couldn't let go of the Jade Ice Crystal Mine in Rock Mountain. He sent people there several times, but they couldn't eliminate the undead creatures. Then, he reported to the Dark Moon City, wanting to borrow the power of the Dark Moon City to eliminate the undead creatures so that he could control the treasure mine again. Bang! After listening to the truth of the matter, Athena couldn't help but be angry. She slammed her palm on the black stone table, and the solid stone table suddenly shattered. She trembled in fear as he watched. Madam Athena, since he told the truth, he doesn't need to be the experiment subject of corpse explosion. Shenrui walked to Garadim and glanced at Sheik, who was relieved. Suddenly, he showed a strange smile. However, Sir Garadim, don't you think the most suitable experiment subject for this fat pig is the rotten zombie? Garadim nodded and smiled sinisterly. Red light flashed in his eyes. When Sheik heard the words rotten zombie, he screamed in fright and simply fainted. Chapter 313. The next day, the townspeople of Town Yenko got a piece of good news, a piece of bad news, and a piece of news that might be good or bad. The good news was that the brutal villain mayor finally died carelessly in the hands of the undead creatures. The bad news was that due to the ancient battlefield, the area around Town Yenko had been eroded by the strange power of the dead and the dead. It had become a cursed land that could no longer be inhabited. The last news was that Princess Royal, the Lord of the Dark Moon City, ordered a magic circle to seal Town Yenko to prevent the further spread of the cursed land. The original townspeople migrated collectively to Town Suatuo, which was further south. Each household was appropriately compensated. Although many people were unwilling to leave their homes, they had no choice but to leave because Town Yenko had been haunted previously, and the curse caused by the undead creatures. Mayor Sheik would definitely be severely punished. Since Sheik was backed by the Seifel family, in order to avoid possible internal conflicts, he was given a chance to die in the line of duty through this undead calamity. In fact, Shenrui kept his promise and handed Sheik over to Garadim to deal with. He was definitely not the experimental subject of the corpse explosion. After old Gauss received Shenrui's message, he immediately arranged for the corresponding manpower and transportation of demonic beasts to assist. He also settled Town Suatoa in advance. Athena also transferred more guards to maintain security and order. The migration work was carried out in an orderly manner. From the news from Old Gauss, Princess Royal and her party would soon return to the Dark Moon City, accompanied by Kia. Thinking of Kia, Shenrui's original thoughts became heavy. Freya's matter had been pressing on his heart. What should come will come eventually. I should think about how to comfort her. After the townspeople completely left Town Yenko, Shenrui and Paglio began this sealing work. In fact, they set up dragon inscriptions and magic circles to isolate the corresponding area of Town Yenko to prevent outsiders from entering. They also repaired the originally destroyed white bone altar to help Garadim speed up the recovery of his soul essence. Since Garadim's matter involved many secrets such as the poison dragon, it was not appropriate to report to Jia for the time being. Therefore, the Jade Ice Crystal Mine in Town Yenko should be sealed first. At least until Garadim's soul essence fully recovered. Shinrui's request for Garatam was very simple. He would not disturb him on normal days, and he would support his experiment as much as possible without harming the general interests of the estate and civilians. Once the corpse necromancer was needed, he must go all out. If he could fully utilize the undead power of the ancient battlefield, then Garatam could create a terrifying undead army that was enough to rival the military power of the entire Dark Moon estate. Coupled with the power of undead magic, it was definitely a powerful secret weapon. Shinrui suddenly thought of something. I have the Tauren and Medusa tribe of Mountain Shillong in my hands, the West Road Defense Force in Tim's hands, the Earth Elemental Alliance Army, the Cloak Gang, plus Garatam's undead army, which is now a veritable subordinate, plus the help of Paglio, Lomont, and Delia. This kind of strength is quite powerful even as the lord of a large estate. If I want to, it doesn't seem difficult to replace Jia as the Lord of the Dark Moon with absolute power advantage. However, Shinrui didn't want to do such a tiring and boring thing. He saw Jia's hard work and pressure. Sometimes, the kind of bloodless battlefield is more terrifying than a real life and death battle. You don't even know when the comrade behind you will stab you. For example, in the Blue Lava Estate, there was an ingrate who called him brother but held a knife in his hand. He always pretended to be a good guy and stabbed her in the back. If he was really keen on power, he would have tried to return to the human world long ago. The Jinyao territory was the richest territory of the Long Huang Empire. He, the third prince, was the legitimate lord. Maybe he could defeat his other siblings and ascend the throne. Now, hiding in the dark and helping Jia to plan was already the limit of what he could do. Moreover, there was something unclear between Princess Royal and him. After arranging a series of resettlement work, Shinrui, Athena, and Paglio returned to the Dark Moon City. Old Gauss told Shinrui that Jia had returned and was waiting for him in the palace's back garden. Shinrui disguised as a follower and followed Old Gauss into the palace smoothly. Old Gauss took him to the inner courtyard's back garden, then he bowed and retreated. Jia was still in her usual white dress. Looking at this strange great demon, she was a little surprised at first, then she seemed to understand. This is the genius mechanic master of the demon realm? There is actually such a wonderful transformation in the Grand Master's inheritance. This face isn't the Master's. Shinrui did not explain the Grand Master's inheritance. His original intention was this excuse. Now that Jia took the initiative to think so, it naturally saved a lot of effort. His face changed again and became the appearance of the Master. This is it. However, the Master's whereabouts are unknown at present. He most likely encountered an accident. Jia nodded and did not say more in this regard. She did not mention the topic of the demon realm's genius master. She said directly, "When I visited the White Feather Estate this time, Lord Sikali gave me a generous gift before I left. There are many luxuries, such as special decorative crystals, colorful feathers, top-grade silk clothes, etc. There are also a group of goblins and minotaur craftsmen who are good at construction. They said that they want to help the Dark Moon repair the dilapidated palace." Shinrui shook his head and said, "This generous gift is more like a gift for Princess Royal herself rather than the Dark Moon estate. Luxury goods can't alleviate the Dark Moon's current food shortage problem. Instead, those craftsmen will increase the Dark Moon's already tight food load. Of course, if the Dark Moon is only so difficult on the surface. I suspect that Sakali's move is a test to find out the true bottom line of the Dark Moon. It is not ruled out that he is inspired by the capital or pressured by it. The so-called friendship in politics was mainly about interests and purposes. It was likely that at some point, when interests changed or the purpose could not be achieved, it was not surprising to fall out and become enemies. There were very few people like General George who stubbornly supported Jia, a weak force, because of some kind of kindness and righteousness. In fact, Shinrui knew that even his father-in-law had wavered before, so General George only asked him to help Jia once instead of forcing him and Athena to be tied up in this precarious place. The strongest was respected. This was the simplest and biggest rule. One could not pin their hopes on others, they could only rely on themselves. This was the case for individuals, and the same was true for the entire estate. You're right. Jia nodded. By the way, Sikali seems to be very interested in Kia, whom I brought. Chenrui frowned. His impression of Sikali was even worse. Jia said, Originally, I should give Kia to Sikali as a gift in return, but I'm afraid that when a genius master returns, he will complain if he doesn't see his maid, so I gave a set of gifts produced by the Princess Retail Store to Lord Sikali instead. Last time, when Jia told Chenrui that she was sent to the Custer family because of Dior's interest in Kia, Chenrui noticed the displeasure that Dior showed. This time, she naturally would not repeat the same mistake. I have almost figured out Kia's matter. Chenrui sighed softly. She should not pose any threat now. The demon prohibition ring can also be removed. She is your maid, so it's up to you to dispose of her. Jia's tone was quite indifferent. Chenrui did not stay on this issue and said, This time I obtained the transformation technique inherited by the Grand Master. The crucial step of the plan has been perfected. Based on the current situation, it must be implemented as soon as possible. I plan to go in person. Jia sighed. As the Lord and the biggest beneficiary of this plan, I don't want to say anything hypocritical. But since Mountain Shilong, you have been taking risks personally. This is obviously not what a wise person would do. I have never said that I am a wise person. I am also afraid of death, but this matter is the most critical part of our entire plan. No one can play this role except me. And I have decided. Chenrui's tone was filled with unquestionable determination, as if he was the Lord. However, this almost excessive determination did not make Jia disgusted. Instead, the ice in her purple eyes began to melt faintly. By the way, I remember, when I left last time, Princess Royal Highness seemed to have promised me that when I return after solving the problem of the Custer family in the Shadow Empire, you will grant me a small request? Chenrui noticed that the atmosphere seemed to be a little stiff. His tone changed and his eyes became a little weird. This kind of eyes made Jia inexplicably nervous. This problem, we'll talk about it later. Mr. Sheriff, it's getting late. You can go back and rest now. Talk about it later? The corner of Chenrui's eyes twitched ambiguously, then he shook his head. That's too far away. Let's talk about it the other day. Let's talk about this important issue now. I'm going to do the most dangerous thing soon. If Sir Lord goes back on your words, it will hurt my enthusiasm. How dare you? Jiao's tone became fierce and murderous. You dare to threaten me? This reaction seemed a little too intense, but unfortunately, Chenrui had long lost this trick. He sighed. Your Highness also knows the danger of my trip. I may not be able to come back. Can't you even satisfy my last wish? Shut up! Jia stared at this guy's fearless eyes with murderous intent. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, In addition to the dance that I originally promised, if you dare to have any other messy requests, now is your last moment. Chenrui looked shocked. What messy request? It's just that dance. Princess Royal, do you still want to? Jia knew that she had fallen into a verbal trap again. When she was about to attack, she saw this guy come over and politely make an invitation gesture. At the same time, a melodious automatic music sounded and floated in the back garden. Asshole, even the music is arranged. He really came prepared. Jia's eyes were about to dissect this guy. However, when Chenrui made that invitation gesture, she involuntarily reached out her hand. Forget it, I'll just keep my promise. As a member of the Lucifer royal family, how can I go back on my words? Jia, who temporarily convinced herself, resisted the urge to burn this guy to ashes with the black flame and let him hold her hand. When their hands touched, it seemed that there was an electric current passing through. The wonderful feeling at the ball emerged again. The wonderful feeling at her fingertips flowed into her heart, and her tense heart was gradually softened by this feeling. When she hugged his shoulder, the man's breath was already quite close. Last time, under the watchful eyes of the public, she didn't have such a strong feeling. Now, in this back garden, there were only two people, him and her. In the beautiful melody, two figures danced under the moonlight. Since the welcome ball for the people from the capital last time, Jia had not danced with anyone, especially this new dance that she was interested in. Chen Rui's performance was much more well-behaved than expected, which made Jia gradually put down some of her defenses. Using a word that Alice learned from someone to describe it, this was called gentleman's demeanor. She didn't know that the so-called gentleman was just a more patient wolf. However, for Jia, who had been busy, it was a rare opportunity to relax. Her steps began to become light, and she began to enjoy this long-lost fun. Her cooperation with Chen Rui became more and more tacit. Chen Rui also enjoyed dancing with this ice princess, especially such a close contact. The white jade-like skin was clearly visible, and there was a faint fresh fragrance in his nose. Looking at the entire dark moon and even the entire demon realm, he was the first man who was so close to Jia. Moreover, she should be willing. If the nobles in the estate saw this scene, their jaws would drop in surprise. Humph! Jia looked at the smile on Chen Rui's face, and she had the desire to punch him no matter how she looked at it. Is it funny? I'm thinking that Princess Royal is true to her words. She is indeed my Sir Lord. Damn guy! When Jia heard, my Sir Lord, her face was faintly hot. Even if Royal Highness wants to retaliate, I'm afraid it will be difficult to find me in a while. To prevent her from turning hostile and ruining the atmosphere, Chen Rui quickly added, I personally hope to keep my life and come back to accept Princess Royal's small punishment next time. Jia's eyes were a little dim. Actually, this time, you don't have to come back. Chen Rui smiled slightly. In my understanding, there are some people and some things that are more important than other things. Jia looked into his eyes. Your efforts may not get the return you want. By then, I'm afraid it will be too late to regret it. Why should I regret it? I remember a book once said that there are always a few encounters in life, and there are always a few foolish times. The important thing is that you have experienced it, met it, and been foolish. Chen Rui did not avoid her gaze. He smiled and raised his hand. Besides, I have been rewarded now, haven't I? She looked at his smile, and suddenly felt that her heartbeat was a little fast. Both of them didn't speak for a while. They just danced quietly in the music. Some subtle things didn't have to be expressed in words. Both sides could feel it. Why has this music been repeated several times, this magic prop of yours? What is it? Well, it's just a longer music, it should be over soon. No! How many dances did this damn guy dance? Well, I think it's soon, it's been almost 3 hours. Bastard, your little trick should be over. Chapter 3:14. Alice went to the White Feather Estate with her sister this time. The little loli was very business-minded. She bought a lot of specialties in the White Feather Estate. Together with the gifts from the White Feather Estate Lord, she brought them back to the Dark Moon and sold them under the name of the Princess Retail Store. The price was not low, but it attracted many people to buy. In addition, the top business family of the Shadow Empire, the Custer family, had sent someone to discuss the opening of a Princess Retail Store branch in the Shadow Empire's capital. With the influence of the Custer family, the Princess Retail Store's products, which symbolized taste and high-end, would soon become popular in the Shadow Empire. This was only the first step of business cooperation between the two parties. As soon as Alice came back, she was very busy. As the most popular and capable shop assistant of the Princess Retail Store, Kia naturally became the busiest person. Kia, aren't you tired? Finally, the customers on the second floor of the Princess Retail Store were empty. There was a rare short period of free time. Alice looked at the energetic succubus strangely. You seem to be in very good spirits recently. You are full of energy in everything you do. You seem to be different than before? No way. Of course, Kia wouldn't say that it was because the soul shackles that controlled her for many years had disappeared. She smiled and said, I'm holding on. I'm almost exhausted. I'm afraid I don't have the strength to accompany little princess to the night market tonight. I'm also exhausted. I just came back from the White Feather Estate, and I have to work without resting for a day. Alice stretched exaggeratedly. I really missed the beautiful and delicious cake last time. If only I can eat it now. Speaking of cake, Kia smiled slightly. It's a pity that Sir Chenrei hasn't woken up yet. Otherwise, little Princess Wish should not be a problem. I hope our Sir Sheriff can recover as soon as possible. I remember that last time, the human even remembered my birthday. Although he is a bit silly, he is indeed a rare good person. Ms. Athena still has good taste. I hope the human can recover soon. By the way, this human's previous name was also Arthur, but he couldn't be compared to that Master Arthur at all. Alice knew that Chenrei had woken up, but she would not reveal it. It was just that the aftertaste of the delicious food really made people salivate. But now Chenrei should be in another city to do something important that her sister had instructed him to do, so she could only swallow her saliva. All right. Everyone, work hard for the shiny black crystal coins. If you can achieve the turnover this month, your salary will be doubled. Speaking of the shiny black crystal coins, the little lowly clenched her fists. Her eyes glowed with the dragon's light, and a powerful aura was exuded. Together with this killer move that could increase wages, it was indeed amazing. It quickly infected all the employees of the Princess retail store, and the morale was high for a while. At this time, a dark elf boy walked up the stairs. He looked at the people upstairs and walked up to Kia. Are you Miss Kia? Someone asked me to deliver a letter to you. No need to read it, it's another letter from an admirer. There was some envy in the little lowly's flashing eyes. In fact, putting aside Alice's appearance, just her identity as a little princess was enough to attract countless suitors. However, she had a very protective sister. Many bad intentions were strangled in the cradle, long ago. Even Joseph did not dare to really show interest in Alice. Kia smiled slightly. She did receive a lot of such letters. However, when she opened the letter and glanced at it, her gaze suddenly changed. Little Princess Royal Highness, I have something urgent. I want to go out for a while, can I? The little lowly looked at the strange look in Kia's eyes and said in surprise. Kia, are you really deceived by a man? Kia's face quickly smeared a rare blush. She shook her head and said, No, it's just an ordinary friend. Please, little princess, it won't take too long. Friend? The little lowly looked doubtful. She thought for a while and agreed. Forget it. It's not long before the closing time. You should go directly to the palace. When you come back, remember to bring me 2 pieces of South Street's barbecued meat pancakes. By the way, the tong papaya from last time has been used up. Help me buy another. The one you mentioned. Kia understood that it was the breast enhancement formula she was talking about. She smiled and nodded. When she was about to leave, the little lowly suddenly blinked her big eyes and threw a book. This is for your reference. Kia, be careful! Kia caught it and looked at it. Even though the succubus was usually generous, she couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. The title of the book was, Be Careful of the Wolf Around You. The Friendship Between a Man and a Woman That Can't Stand a Night. Kia hurriedly walked out of the Princess retail store and went all the way to the West Street. At this time, the sky had gradually darkened. At the intersection of 14th Street, a few blind guys discovered the succubus' stunning beauty and followed her. Before they reached the abandoned house area, a terrifying breath suddenly shrouded them. The few intermediate demon gangsters were scared witless. They didn't dare to take a step closer. Chenrei released some breath to scare away those gangsters. His eyes fell on Kia in front of him. She was still the extremely attractive stunner. The relatively tight maid attire wrapped around her beautiful curves, exuding a breathtaking beauty. Compared with the Shadow Empire, she was a little less seductive and more elegant and charming. Her spirit seemed to have improved by a level. Her charming eyes were glowing with a moving splendor. Master! Although Chenrei's face was shrouded in a cloak, Kia still recognized the man who had some kind of intimate contact with her at a glance. He was also the first in her life. She couldn't help but take a few steps forward as her mind was stirred up. Facing the surprise on Kia's charming and moving face, Shinrei thought of another somewhat similar face. He couldn't have any romantic thoughts in his heart, so he took off his cloak and used the face of Master Arthur, for the time being. In Kia's eyes, this great demon appearance was more pleasing to the eye than any handsome face, but the dignified look gave her an ominous omen in her heart. "I'm sorry." Shinrei didn't dare to look directly at her eager eyes. He lowered his head slightly. "Your mother Freya." Kia was shocked and her heart tightened. Then, she heard Shinrei finally said, "She has passed away." Kia faintly felt that something was wrong just now. Now that her worries were confirmed, she still couldn't bear it. Her face suddenly became extremely pale. She couldn't accept the bad news for a while. Her whole body shook and she almost couldn't stand steadily. For Kia, there was no concept of father in her life. The man named Asgulr was just a cold and ruthless master. Her birth was just an accidental product after some desire was vented. Even her mother was just a tool in Asgulr's eyes. If it weren't for her special devouring physique, she would probably have become the lowest tool for venting. Asgulr's legal wife, Sabrina, was also a vicious master. Under the control of soul shackles, Kia and her mother fell into an almost endless nightmare, enduring inhuman torture. Their only hope of survival was each other's lives. Now that the shadow of soul shackles that troubled Kia for many years finally disappeared, she ushered in the real hope in life. However, her mother, Freya, would never be able to share this hope with her. Shinrei gently hugged her trembling body. Kia was like a person who fell into the water grabbing a driftwood. She leaned on his shoulder and sobbed. The two moons in the sky were gradually covered with a layer of gloomy clouds, as if they were also sad for the lost beauty. "I'm sorry, I've tried my best." Shinrei sighed and gently stroked Kia's back that finally stopped sobbing and calmed down. Kia leaned on his shoulder that was soaked with tears and nodded gently. It wasn't the first time she cried on this shoulder. That feeling was quite reassuring. "I know, Madame Sabrina, you don't need to call her Madame." Shinrei knew that Sabrina and her mother's prestige had a heavy shadow in Kia's heart, so he immediately showed a determined look. "She and Fadalu, plus that Isola, are considered to be buried with your mother." Kia looked shocked. She knew Sabrina and Isola. They were the two wives of Asgulr. Their status was extremely high, and their strength was quite powerful. Especially Sabrina, she was likely to reach the Demon Emperor level, yet they are all dead. "Master, is your strength Demon Emperor?" "No." Shinrei shook his head. "I'm still far from Demon Emperor. I used a trick to kill both of them. Sabrina is indeed powerful. She has reached the Demon Emperor level. I almost failed. A great demon king killing a demon emperor." Kia understood what this concept was. Although Shinrei simply said almost failed, she could imagine how much risk this man took to kill Sabrina and remove the soul shackles for her. Kia was touched. She suddenly thought of a terrifying thing and exclaimed, "You killed them! Asgulr will never let you go. He is a demon overlord powerhouse. I'm afraid it's dangerous here. You should quickly escape to a safe place." "Don't worry, Asgulr is now severely injured by a demon overlord. He can't even take care of himself. In fact, I only killed Sabrina and Isola. I wanted Fadalu, who was controlled by me, to escape with your mother, but I was caught by Asgulr on the way. Fadalu was killed by him. This is Asgulr. In his eyes, the so-called daughter is just a tool that can be abandoned at any time. I didn't expect Fadalu to be the same." Kia smiled bitterly. "Then my mother was also, the one who really did it is another demon overlord." Shinrei clenched his fist and sighed. "In fact, I'm also one of the indirect murderers. If it wasn't for my plan going wrong, no." Kia gently covered his mouth. Her red eyes from crying showed deep affection and gratitude. "You've done enough for me. Although you didn't say much, I know that you must have experienced a considerable risk to escape from death this time." Shinrei held her hand. "As I said, it's just along the way. I originally had my own plan. I also said it." Kia's head leaned gently on his shoulder again. As long as you don't mind that I'm a humble maid, you can't get rid of me even if you want to. What nonsense are you talking about? Chinray gently put something on her wrist. This is my gift to you. Kia looked down. It was a string of strangely shaped ornaments. On the red rope, there were several extremely exquisitely carved ornaments. The exquisite beauty exuded a strange power fluctuation. She exclaimed, This is my first legendary grade work, momentary beauty. Chinray gently stroked her hair. Compared with many immortal existences, our lives are just a moment. Even this moment has the beauty that makes time stop. You will eventually wake up from the nightmare. I only hope that in the future there will be no pain and sorrow in your smile, but true happiness. That is the true beauty of your life. As for this, you don't need it in the future. Ding! The black anti-magic ring in Kia's hand had been broken, and the fragments fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. The beautiful eyes of the succubus were intertwined with surprise, joy, and emotion. She only felt her eyes become more and more blurred, and tears of excitement fell to the ground. In front of this man, all the shackles turned into smoke and dissipated, but there was an unbreakable connection in her heart. It was a very happy feeling. If her mother knew, she would definitely be happy for her daughter. Living happily was the best way to comfort his mother. Master, can I have it forever? Of course, if you are willing, you can have its creator forever. Chinray kissed her forehead. But before that, you first have to listen to the confession of a liar. Because I have a lot of things that I have been hiding from you. For example, I have a wife. Kia was slightly shocked, then she whispered. Kia knows that her identity is low, and her physique is too special, so I don't dare to expect anything. I just want to stay by the master's side as a little maid. As for the madam, I will serve her with all my heart. Having said that, Kia was still worried. It wasn't surprising that the master had a wife. Not only because great demon males were notoriously fickle, but in her opinion, such a capable and excellent man would definitely be liked by many women. She was worried about the treatment that her mother, Freya, had suffered. If she met an extremely ruthless legal wife, then her future days. However, this man was different from Asgulr, and she was also willing to follow him. This was the first man she was willing to follow. No matter how difficult it was, she would not give up. As soon as Kia made up her mind, she heard the master added another sentence. To be precise, she is my fiancée. Don't worry, you know her. I know her? This time Kia was really shocked. Actually, you and I have known each other before I went to the Shadow Empire, and we are old friends. Ah? Kia was even more surprised. What you're seeing now isn't my real face. This is a special innate ability. It's not easy to explain here. Come with me to a place, and you will naturally understand. That place will be your real home in the future. Kia followed him all the way to the remote neighborhood in the northeast. The house that should have been familiar was where Kia left. She was summoned by the little princess to the princess retail store, then she returned to live in the palace. Now that she was revisiting the old place, Kia faintly had an almost unbelievable guess in her heart. When she looked back, she really saw the old friend, who had restored his true face, or it should be called the good guy. The expression on the succubus's face was quite interesting, and it finally turned into a strange charm. You're really an amazing liar, aren't you? My master? Oh my God, the charming succubus is back again. Chapter 3:15. The next morning, Kia got up early. Last night, she didn't go back to the palace. However, unlike what some people with complicated thoughts thought, Kia, who stayed in the sheriff's house, had a long talk with Athena all night. Athena knew about Kia's experience and Freya's bad news, so she was very sympathetic. Kia was also very clear about Athena's position in Chinray's heart. She immediately put away her usual mask and told him about her past. When it came to emotional parts, Athena also cried a lot. The two weren't strangers to begin with. Now that they were honest with each other, they had endless things to talk about. Of course, the most common topic was about a certain cunning liar. Kia busied herself for a while and quickly made a hearty breakfast for everyone. Lomad wasn't jealous of Chunrei now, but he admired him. Sir Leader is too powerful. He's such a beast. He actually managed to trick a beautiful woman who was good at the dining hall and the kitchen so quickly. What's more, Athena wasn't jealous at all. She got along very well with the new beauty. As for his Delia, not to mention her culinary skills, just her jealousy of the royal family alone was enough to kill all of his thoughts of being a playboy. In fact, Lomad had seen Kia, who came with Alice during the last outing. However, those who could be brought into this house by Chunrei were his people in the true sense. Kia was a succubus with a mutated bloodline. After removing the imprisonment of the anti-magic ring, her comprehensive strength was C, which was Demon King level. She was proficient in both fire and wind magic, and she had a talent of spirit power. The legendary great accessory, Momentary Beauty, really found the right owner. No wonder Jia wanted to use the anti-magic ring to imprison her power. For Kia, who was already his woman, Chunrei naturally wouldn't be stingy. He gave her all the devil fruits and black potions that could improve her strength. It was probably impossible to reach Great Demon King in a short time, but it shouldn't be a problem to reach the peak of Demon King. Since Chunrei had an intimate encounter with Kia when he was using the identity of Master Arthur, plus Chunrei's intention to take Freya away, Asgalar was likely to suspect Kia. If Kia disappeared, it would be equivalent to confessing. At present, Chunrei didn't have a candidate who could match Demon Overlord, so Kia had to keep her original job for the time being. In case she had contact with that force, she had to pretend to know nothing about Freya. If necessary, she could ask Sabrina appropriately if she took the initiative to remove the soul shackles. Of course, Chunrei wouldn't let Kia take risks again, so he gave her many life-saving items. In case of danger, she could escape directly. At present, the Shadow Empire must be cracking down on that force. Asgalar, who was seriously injured, probably didn't have the time to take care of a small character like Kia. After Kia prepared breakfast, she just gave Chunrei an affectionate look and went to the princess retail store. Last night, Athena sent a message to Alice, saying that she asked Kia to stay so that she wouldn't worry. Although he didn't have the soy sauce barbecued meat pie and the tongue papaya that he wanted to eat, he believed that a delicious cream cake would make the little loli smile. With the little loli's sensitivity, she would definitely guess that he was back as soon as she saw the cake. However, Chunrei hadn't seen Alice for a long time. After the Dark Moon's matter was arranged, he would immediately go to town moling in the Red Spirit Estate. This time, he would go for a long time. If everything went well, it would take several months. Before leaving, they should have a good gathering. Sometimes, women were compassionate creatures. Athena had expressed that she could accept Kia long ago, but the value of this sentence was far less than the promise about Jia and her sister. She was even very wary of this maid. However, after a long night of conversation last night, Athena, who also lost her mother, had already regarded Kia as one of her own. Delia's parents died in an accident in her early years. The three women who shared the same fate became close friends who could not hide anything from each other. However, when a guy who worshipped the demon gods left, I obscurely proposed to accept some women who were worthy of sympathy and help with love and justice. The demon god's left eye was punched into a panda and was forced to convert to the great and dedicated right eye. If it was normal times, Chunrei would definitely retaliate by letting his unscrupulous nephew hug his uncle's leg and call him young master. However, he was not free now because the defense team sent by Tim from Mountain Shilong had already escorted several people to the Dark Moon City. The Tonka brothers and Tommy were fine, but the focus was on the dark elf woman, Lisa, because she was likely to be Aldous' long-lost sister. Chunrei changed into a Guile's outfit and placed these people in the old house of the original Melon family, which was the current branch of the Cloak Gang. Soon after, Aldous, who received the news, rushed over. The Dark Elf Master had been staying in the secret basement of the laboratory to study black potions. Slee sent him 3 meals a day, and he almost never came out to play. If it weren't for the famous deed of killing the capital's potioneer genius with a fart, many people in the Dark Moon would almost forget the top potion master of the estate. If any potion master in the demon realm knew what was in the Dark Elf Master's laboratory, he would definitely be mad with jealousy. Others tried their best to brew Grand Master level black potions, but Aldous tried his best to gain insight from the ready-made black potions. With a full set of true potions as a reference, coupled with the concentrated research during this time, Aldous's research finally made substantial progress. Although he still couldn't brew black potions, he had already entered the ranks of the real top potion masters. He was only 1 step away from the highest level. Although he didn't know when he could break through, he was sure that this step was closer than all the potion masters in the demon realm. If it was just an ordinary matter, Aldous, who was at the most important moment of insight and experimentation, wouldn't care at all. However, as soon as he received the news, he immediately dropped the experiment at hand and rushed over. In a small room arranged by Chinrui, Aldous met Sally alone. The two stayed in the room for a long time. There were faint sounds of crying and scolding. Finally, the door opened and Aldous walked out. The expression on his face looked very depressed. "Master," Chinrui greeted him. "Isn't this Sally Master's sister?" "Sally is indeed my long-lost sister." Aldous smiled bitterly. "It's just that because of my mistake in the past, she has never been able to forgive me." It turned out that Aldous's family was quite well off back then, but he was extremely obsessed with pharmaceutics. He once learned from a potioneer. Being a potioneer was a very costly profession, not to mention that the potioneer's character was very bad. He just wanted to use this opportunity to extort money from Aldous. The dark elf who was immersed in it didn't listen to his father and sister's persuasion. As a result, he went bankrupt and was heavily in debt. He was still stubborn. In the end, he didn't even see his father before his death. It wasn't until the potioneer squeezed out his last drop of value and ran away that Aldous finally realized his mistake. He had no face to face his deceased father and his sister who hated him. He left without saying goodbye and was determined to become a real potion master. Then, after a lot of hardships, he became a potioneer, but he was still poor and homeless. Finally, with the help of Princess Royal Jia, he passed the master's assessment. When he turned around to look for his sister, she was already gone. This was also cited by Aldous as the biggest regret in his life. After hearing the news of Sally, Aldous rushed over without hesitation. However, what made him regret was that Sally still hadn't forgiven him until now. In fact, Sally had suffered even more in these years. In order to pay off his debts, she suffered a lot. After several twists and turns, she was found by Joseph, who had ulterior motives. Finally, she fell into Kanita's secret prison. Sally is right. If it weren't for my stupidity and obsession back then, she wouldn't have suffered so much, and my father. Aldous clenched his fist and lowered his head in self-blame. The cost and success are proportional at some point. Without the stupidity and obsession back then, perhaps there wouldn't be today's master. Chinrui saw the Dark Elf Master's painful expression for the first time. He comforted. "In my opinion, Ms. Sally still has you as her brother in her heart. There is a saying that the deeper the love, the more painful it is. If she is indifferent and treats you like a passerby, then you should be worried. Give her some time and give yourself some time. She will accept you." Aldous nodded and said to Chinrui, "A human friend of mine said that you can trust Surigwile as much as you trust him. This time, Sally could come to the Dark Moon because of Surigwile's help. Aldous expresses his sincere gratitude here. If Sir needs anything in the future, I will try my best to help. Sally is not suitable and unwilling to go to my place at the moment. She will stay in the Cloak Gang during this time. I will leave everything to Sir." Chinrui nodded. "My human friend also said that the master's business is his business. Please rest assured that Sally will be safe here." Aldous looked at the house. He looked a little sad and left. Chinrui walked into the house. Sally quickly wiped her tears and looked at the mysterious masked man with vigilance. Chinrui said faintly, "Do you really hate him that much?" "This is my business," Sally said coldly. "Don't think that you can criticize me just because you managed to bring me here. You are the same as those people. It's just that you value Aldous' current value. In fact, it's useless to threaten such a cruel person like him. Don't be too smart." "Woman!" Sally's words made Chinrui a little surprised. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Aguile. I'm the leader of the biggest force in this Dark Moon City. The reason why you came here is just because of the convenience of a certain sir. Besides, you can't just eat and drink for free here. You must use your own labor to get food and security." "Labor?" Sally's eyes flashed with cynicism. "Is it to directly serve you, sir? Or become a prostitute controlled by Sir Leader? Before that stupid Aldous still has value, I don't think I will end up like this. It seems that you have experienced a lot." Chinrui nodded. "I just need a woman with experience in certain aspects." While Sally was vigilant, she heard Sir Aguile continue to say, "I want to remind you that the Cloak Gang is different from some forces that you know. I have a cloak magic item store. If you don't want to rely on your relationship with Aldous to be a freeloader here, then prove it to me." This time it was Sally's turn to be surprised. This leader didn't seem to be joking. She naturally refused to admit defeat. "I will prove it to you, Sir Leader." Chapter 316. It could be seen that Sally was a woman with a strong personality. She still had a lass as her brother in her heart. It was indeed a good idea to use the magic store to make her stay justifiably. The Cloak Magic Store was the most popular magic store in Dark Moon City. Master Xingxing's reputation and craftsmanship were quite impressive. Although the Dark Goblin Master only went once a week at most, it didn't affect the business at all. It was crowded every day. With Chenrui's current mechanics level, although there was still a little distance between him and the two top masters, Xingxing and Sky, in terms of a single mastery, no master in the demon realm could compare with him. The problem was that his master, Arthur, couldn't be seen now. It was more than enough to have Master Xingxing here. Besides, Chenrui's real goal wasn't the peak of mechanics, but the peak of power. This strong determination was not only for himself, but also for the things he had to protect. As for Tonk, Teak and Tommy, Chenrui just told Tonk some ideas to improve the crossbow, including the scope, continuous magazine, etc., and Tonk asked to join the Cloak Gang with shining eyes. Chenrui's intention was to use Tonk's specialty to build an institution like an arsenal. Of course, unlike the Mystic Valley, the main goal was to produce some special individual armaments. Chenrui came to the ancient house, the lair of the Cloak Gang. Due to the arrangement of Sally and the others, the news of the return of the leader had reached the ancient house. Seeing the familiar cloak man appear, the old goblin Didi, who came to greet him, learned his lesson this time. He didn't make any slogans and ostentation like "Constellation Immortal, Boundless Power," but he saluted respectfully. "Master, you're back." Previously, when the old goblin Didi created the Cloak Gang by exploiting others' might, he never dreamed that it could develop to the current level. He went from a bottom-level person who could only rely on swindling and reselling to barely make a living. Now, he became the most powerful person in the entire estate. He had both money and power. It was all thanks to this master. The old goblin was arrogant in front of others, and he would bully others from time to time, but he was absolutely in awe of Chenrui. Master could give it to him, but he could also take it back. The old goblin was very clear about this, so even though his daughter had successfully become a mechanic master, he still took care of the Cloak Gang conscientiously, and didn't dare to slack off. "I know about the situation at the night market and the hot pot restaurant." Chenrui nodded. "You did a good job." The old geezer was secretly delighted and replied respectfully, "I was only following Master's instructions. Everything is due to Master's efforts." Chenrui encouraged him and asked, "Are Master Sky and Master Xingxing in the backyard?" Yes, but Jessie just took Sasa and Master Sky's 2 daughters out to play. Shinrei remembered the scene of life and death duel with Quick Wolf Jessie in the arena when he just reached Alkate State. He felt a little emotional and walked straight to the backyard. In the backyard, Sky and Xingxing were discussing a drawing on the table. Due to the dark goblin's figure, they chose to stand on a stool, which looked a little funny. Shinrei's arrival made the 2 glance at him. That kind of gaze made him feel a little uncomfortable, so he bit the bullet and walked in front of the 2 masters. A while. Xingxing jumped down from the stool and stared straight at his mask. Show me that momentary beauty. Master. Shinrei didn't expect Xingxing to make such a request. His identity as Arthur seemed to have been seen through by the 2. There's no need to hide, Sky said. When we heard the news that shook the demon realm, we had a hunch. Later, after the trio's specialized genius master disappeared, many related stories were spread around, including the matter of asking the Dark Shadow Queen for the Flower of Mist at the mechanic contest that made him famous. After learning about this incident, I have basically confirmed your identity. In any case, I should say thank you to you. Master is too polite. When Shinrei heard Sky talk about this, he knew he couldn't hide it. Trio Specialized Master, Magic Circle Genius. Master Xingxing shook his head and said, I now wonder if you are a different person. Actually, this is because my teacher passed everything to me. Shinrei thought about it, and this was the only reason that could explain it. Everything. Then your teacher. Sky was shocked. His life has come to an end. Shinrei said this and remained silent. No matter what method you used to reach this level, the current you is definitely worthy of the title of Master. Xingxing nodded and said, But you can rest assured that Master Sky and I are both sensible people. We know that you have your own secrets, so even Sasa and Sky's 2 daughters don't know about this. Thank you, Master. Shinrei was relieved and bowed to the 2. In front of the 2 of you, I dare not call myself a master. Okay, don't be polite. Xingxing was a little impatient. A master should have the confidence and bearing of a master. Being too humble is pretentious. You came at the right time. Take a look at this magic facility we designed. Shinrei nodded, walked to the table, and looked at it carefully. His expression became more and more surprised. Although he couldn't see the face behind the mask, Master Xingxing still noticed the strange look in Shinrei's eyes and showed a proud expression. The reason why Shinrei was surprised was not that the thing made by Xingxing and Sky had reached the legendary or epic grade. On the contrary, the quality of this set of facilities had not even reached the excellent grade. This was a set of water supply equipment. To be precise, it was the Demon Realm's tap water system. For a long time, the Demon Realm's water had been obtained by digging wells. The more extravagant ones would use magic to create fountains. It was the first time that this kind of magic water intake system that could be used by ordinary users came out. This creativity was naturally inspired by Shinrei. In fact, Shinrei didn't know what equipment or principles were used in the original world's tap water system, but since this was the Demon Realm, it must be suitable for the actual situation of the Demon Realm. Magic was definitely the main energy source. With such a master-level character, the principles were definitely not a problem. As long as some ideas or creativity were put forward, many problems would naturally be solved. Shinrei looked at it while putting forward some of his own ideas, such as adding filtration and purification devices, adding calculation water meters, improving materials, greatly reducing the cost and making it easier to promote. Xingxing and Sky also put forward their own opinions while pondering. This set of water supply system gradually took shape. Shinrei praised. After the complete improvement and successful trial of this system, I will report it to the Dark Moon Lord Princess Royal Highness and promote it throughout the estate. If it can be further widely used in the entire Demon Realm, it will be the greatest mechanical invention in the entire Demon Realm since the magic lamp. The magic lamp was invented by the mechanic Grand Master Martini 70,000 years ago. It could be said to be immortalized. As Shinrei borrowed the name of his teacher to say, The real mechanic skill is not to destroy life, but to benefit life. This is the true meaning of mechanics. A piece of equipment, even if it was epic grade, may not be preserved and passed down forever. However, this kind of invention, as long as it could be successful, it would definitely be recorded in history forever. It doesn't need to reach the Grand Master level to surpass many Grand Masters. Xingxing and Sky's eyes glowed at the same time. By the way, Master Sky. Chenrui took out a purple flower. This is a gift for you. Flower of Mist! Sky's eyes widened. Didn't you say that Empress Catherine gave a seed? Even if there is magic to accelerate it, the maturity period of the Flower of Mist will be more than 10 years. Chenrui didn't answer. He just smiled and handed over the Flower of Mist. Sky recovered from his gaffe. He knew that he had said too much. Everyone had their own secrets. It was already a great favor for the other party to give it to him directly without any request. He immediately held back the excitement in his heart, took the Flower of Mist, and carefully placed it in a box. Great! With the Flower of Mist, plus the secret medicine and the Fountain of Resurrection collected previously, the curse can be completely lifted in a month at most. Master Aguile. Sky bowed deeply. No words are enough to express my gratitude. I should have stayed here to contribute to Sir's cloak gang. It's just that after the curse is lifted, my existence will bring disaster to Sir and even the cloak gang. Therefore, I plan to leave the Dark Moon as soon as possible and find a safe place to hide. Master, I know you made the request to leave for the sake of me and the cloak gang. Chenrui looked at Xingxing, who was smiling confidently, and said, You and Master Xingxing's joint research results haven't been completed yet. Don't you feel regretful if you leave like this? Sky sighed and looked a little sad. Chenrui said again, Although I don't know how powerful your enemy is, this should be a relatively safe place. As for your true face after recovering, I believe it shouldn't be difficult to solve this problem with Master Xingxing. What's more, both Eve and Alien like this place very much. They really aren't suitable to wander around. I have ready-made magic items to shield breath and face. Even a demon overlord may not be able to see through it. Master Xingxing smiled confidently. Aguile is very cunning. As long as you stay, coupled with Ms. Sasa's relationship, I will definitely stay here for a long time. However, it is undeniable that his plan is very successful. Sky looked at Xingxing, then looked at Chenrui, and finally nodded. Okay, then as a trusted friend, I should confess something. Sky is not my real name. My name is Fonsac. Chenrui didn't feel anything about the name, but Master Xingxing was taken aback. It turns out that you are Master Fonsac, who is known as the top leather expert in the demon realm. Aren't you dead? In addition to the newly rising Master Arthur, the original top mechanic master of the demon realm was the president of the Bloody Empire's Mechanic Association, Nate. However, the reason why Nate got this title was not because he was the top in a single mastery, but because Nate was a dual mastery master. He could use the rules to win in every master contest. When it came to mastering a single element, those who had truly reached the pinnacle were the three most powerful top-notch masters. Metal Mastery, Master Anderson. The current president of the Shadow Empire's Mechanic Association. Leather Mastery, Master Fonsac. The former senior master of the Bloody Empire's Mechanic Association. Deceased. Accessories Mastery, Master Tetanus. Stateless and free top master, his whereabouts are uncertain. Fonsac was originally the top mechanic master in the Bloody Empire's Mechanic Association besides Nate. He was deeply respected, but he unfortunately died more than a decade ago. Unexpectedly, he changed his name to Sky and came to the Dark Moon. Moreover, he was cursed. There must be unknown secrets in it. Aguile, your teacher sacrificed himself and passed everything to you without reservation. He wanted to help you become a Grand Master first. However, Nate, in order to improve his level, unscrupulously wanted to seize other people's skills through the so-called shortcut. Sky's words surprised Xingxing and Chenrui at the same time. What is the concept of seizing skills? Xingxing asked in surprise. Master Nate, that despicable villain doesn't deserve to be called a master at all. Sky gritted his teeth and said, My hatred with him is deeper than the Dead Sea. Shinroi thought of Nate's disciple, Horford, in the mechanic contest, and Isola, who was behind Horford, the force in the Crystal Valley. His mind began to turn quickly. Nate is the Mammon royal family with a mutated bloodline. He has a strange talent that can combine dark magic to cast a secret technique to devour other people's consciousness and absorb their memories. Devour consciousness. Xingxing was moved. Is it turning other people's knowledge into your own use? Almost, but this kind of secret technique requires a considerable price to cast. The stronger the opponent's will, the more difficult it is to succeed. There will even be a backlash unless the target is willing. Sky gnashed his teeth. He secretly poisoned and imprisoned me. He wanted to cast a secret technique, but he was backfired by my will and was severely injured. In order to force me to submit, he also kidnapped my wife and daughter and cast a curse on them. My wife committed suicide to prevent me from being threatened. If it weren't for several of my disciples who risked their lives to save me, my 2 daughters and I would still be imprisoned or dead now. Damn it! Master Xingxing slammed the table. I didn't expect Nate to be such a vicious and shameless guy. I must expose this matter and let all the mechanics in the demon realm know what this so-called top mechanic master is. It's useless, Master Xingxing. Nate's power is very great. Since he dares to do this, he must be fully prepared. Besides, it has been so long. Don't act rashly to avoid being implicated. Sky shook his head. Nate sent people to hunt me all the way. As a result, I fell into the poison cloud abyss with my daughter. He declared that I was dead. Firstly, he couldn't determine whether I was dead or alive. Secondly, I was cursed so much that my spirit and reaction were greatly reduced. I couldn't recover to my previous state. Even if I exposed his true colors, no one would believe it. It's just that Nate never thought that I could escape from the poison cloud abyss and even get the antidote to lift the curse. As Sky said that, he showed gratitude to Chenrei. He and his daughter could recover thanks to this, Sir Leader. Master Fonsac, Chenrei comforted. You stay here with peace of mind. Use the flower of mist to completely lift the curse first. Don't worry about the rest. We all need to be patient now. When the time is right, we will find the so-called top master of the demon realm to settle the score. Just call me Sky. Fonsac has passed away for many years. Sky nodded and calmed down. He smiled and bowed to Chenrei. From now on, I am an official member of the Cloak Gang. I will leave the rest to Sir Leader. Chenrei returned a salute. After the Dark Goblin Master muttered a few words of, the plan succeeded. He looked at Sky with a happy smile. Chapter 317. Sky's Fonsac encounter made Chenrei vigilant and suspicious of the demon realm's top mechanic master with despicable means. Horford, the suspected disciple of Sky, experienced the chaos in the Crystal Valley. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead, but the relationship between Horford and the Crystal Valley should not be as simple as hiring or hiring. In connection with Nate's means and the huge force behind him, Chenrei had every reason to suspect that Nate was also one of the members of that mysterious force. In any case, his own strength and the power in his hands were far from enough to compete with that force head-on, so he could only endure for now. The problem of this force was only a long-term concern. The problem of the Dark Moon Estate was the immediate concern. It was imperative to start acting immediately. However, he still had to wait for 2 more days because it was Athena's 20th birthday in a few days. Athena just reminded him from the side calmly. In fact, Chenrei always remembered that when he saw the, "I understand," written on the man's face, even the usually generous Sir Sheriff couldn't help blushing. In fact, Chenrei always remembered this day. Alice also remembered Athena's birthday. She shouted to celebrate in advance. Although the little lowly's purpose was probably for the delicious cake that Kia brought that time, it was quite good to remember her good friend's birthday. Athena was very touched by this. When Kia brought back the cake last time, the little loli knew that Chenrei must have returned from outside. Unfortunately, she went to the White Feather Estate last time, so she didn't meet him immediately. This time, while Athena was in a good mood, she took the opportunity to make a small request. As early as when Athena accompanied Chenrei to Mountain Shillong, Alice was very envious of her riding the wyvern. Her request was to ride the wyvern once and have a taste of being a dragon knight. Initially, Chenrei didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble, so he had been fooling the little loli with the excuse of his lack of strength. He said that he had not yet developed the antidote to completely remove the wyvern's poison, so he must reach higher demon to ride it. Since the dragon knight had to deal with poison for a long time, it was easy to be disfigured. This problem made the little loli fearful for a long time. However, as time went by, Chenrei himself almost forgot the excuse of procrastination, but the little loli always kept this matter in mind. Finally, she successfully learned from Athena that the antidote had been successfully developed this time. In fact, Athena once heard from Chenrei that Alice, like her, had taken the essence jade pearl that was condensed from the poison dragon's horn for hundreds of years. She had a strong and permanent anti-poison ability, so the wyvern's poison didn't work on Alice at all. Besides, Chenrei didn't hide the fact that he was awake from Alice, and Alice also kept it a secret. It wasn't a big problem to fly her once. "I'm going to the barracks to organize the final selection of the battle ball players today, so I won't be going," Athena said generously in front of the little loli and Chenrei. "Alice, Chenrei will lend you for a day." "Lend?" Chenrei's expression was stagnant. "It's not easy to lend a guy like this." Alice's big eyes were full of stars. "Athena isn't going? Then, she and Chenrei are alone? Is this to create an opportunity for me? Athena, you are such a good friend. Good things should be shared with friends. I have to make Alice happy for once today." Athena dropped this sentence and gave Chenrei a, "You must do it. Look." Then, she walked toward the barracks. This loli's happiness is probably built on other people's pain. A certain guy who was regarded as a good thing saw the little loli's eyes glowing, and he inexplicably thought of a certain stick that was used to hit the back of a person's head. He suddenly shuddered. If this day was arranged by Alice, she would probably fly the wyvern in the Dark Moon City at an anti-radar low altitude. That would be a terrible ordeal. Chenrei used the excuse that the wyvern was in the Black Rainforest, and it would take at least half a day to mobilize it. He took Alice around the city. In order to prevent the little loli from protesting, he even took the initiative to buy some small things for her. However, Alice's mood and patience seemed to be particularly good today. She was very obedient. She always had a smile on her face, and she didn't have any objection. At this moment, Chenrei almost thought that he had an illusion. Is this obedient and cute loli really that eccentric, black-bellied, and greedy loli? Could it be that after these days of training in the princess retail store, she has recovered her normal attributes? According to someone's mantra, "Demon God above, I finally opened the almighty left eye." However, the difference between ideal and reality was huge. The black-bellied loli's fangs were soon revealed. Some strange ideas made Chenrei flee. For the simplest example, in order to hide the true face of the sheriff and match her princess identity, Alice very cleverly suggested that he use transformation to transform into a female image. Then she very kindly took him to buy underwear. Chenrei, who fully realized the cruelty of reality, finally understood how unwise it was to wander around the crowded Dark Moon City with little loli. He immediately took her all the way out of the Dark Moon City and rode the tri-horned rhino to a place in the suburbs. Without waiting for little loli to have a new, good idea, Chenrei had secretly summoned a wyvern. Since he would soon rush to the Red Spirit Estate to carry out the plan, this wyvern was prepared a few days ago. Since he couldn't withstand Alice's attack, he had to reveal the wyvern in advance. According to Athena, Alice's beast-taming skill was terrible. It was too dangerous to fly the wyvern in the air alone. Despite the communication of analytical eyes, Chinrui still rode on the wyvern with her just in case. The wyvern didn't have any protective equipment like a saddle, nor was it restrained by the cage chain. Perhaps it was because she had seen Athena's flight and her trust in Chinrui. Alice was not afraid when facing the rumored strongest flying demonic beast. Instead, she looked excited. Chinrui's beast-taming skill really didn't disappoint Alice. The wyvern bent down meekly and allowed them to ride on its back. Alice followed Chinrui's instructions and grabbed the protruding bone spur on the back of the wyvern. The wyvern didn't need to run like a griffin. Its powerful legs bounced, and its wings flapped as it soared into the air. Other than the tilt of the center of gravity during takeoff, the flying wyvern was much more stable in the air. Alice's early intermediate demon strength was enough to control it. Alice was still a little nervous when she took off, but she was completely relaxed now. This wyvern was huge. It wasn't the two young dragons that Chinrui and Athena rode to Mountain Shillong last time. It should be an adult wyvern with the strength of higher demon. Alice couldn't help but get excited when she thought of this. In fact, little Loli was still wrong. The true strength of this wyvern was the Demon King later stage. Its endurance and flying ability were very outstanding. It once carried Chinrui between the Silent Night Wetland and the Dark Moon Estate. It was considered an old mount. Under Chinrui's instruction, the wyvern began to make various changes in direction and height under Alice's poor beast-taming skill. The little Loli was thrilled. If she wasn't in midair now, she would definitely jump happily. Left full rudder, left forward 2, plasma cannon, fire! The little Loli had boldly stood up. She just hooked the bone spur that stabilized her body with her feet. She released a small black fireball forward with a faint power in her hand. Although the power of this small fireball was not worth mentioning, the mysterious law contained in it was something that Chinrui couldn't ignore now. The bloodline talent of the Lucifer royal family, Dark Flame. Dark Flame was not entirely the power of fire, nor was it entirely the power of dark. It only had one kind of law, which was destruction. It ignored all destruction. It was the complete opposite of the Nirvana's flame. Activate the photon shield protection. Prepare for space jump. The little Loli was now completely immersed in the role of the story told by Chinrui in the past. Fortunately, Chinrui had made an agreement with her early on that she couldn't get close to the Dark Moon City. Otherwise, the little Loli would have gone to play the role of the eagle over London. The Loli over the Dark Moon. After playing with the space fortress, the little Loli suddenly had a pair of furry black ears on her head. It turned out to be a strange cat ears hat. He didn't know where she got it from. There was also a small bell hanging on her neck that made a crisp sound in the wind. Meow! The little Loli screamed mischievously. Chinrui seemed to see an invisible tail wagging behind her skirt, but this time it wasn't the tail of a little demon, but some kind of feline. Wait! This is a cat ears Loli? Chinrui was shocked. Is the little Loli going to create a new genre in the demon realm? At this moment, he saw the little Loli pointing to the sky with one hand. The invisible little tail behind her but was wagging, and she made an arrogant voice. It actually passed through the whistling airflow and seemed domineering. Humans can no longer stop the cats. Chinrui, perhaps this should be the little Loli's real happy look. The money-minded princess retail store boss character was more for her sister, Jia. It was really hard to take care of the business all day. After all, she was still a child who hadn't grown up. As Athena said, I'll let Alice be happy today. The little Loli played for a while happily and tirelessly. She seemed to have lost interest in the one-man show. She stretched her hands to her shoulders and made a cross gesture. Sure kuh. Chinrui didn't react for a while. There is someone with this name here? The name of the wyvern isn't like this, right? Sure kuh. Hurry up. Alice, are you calling me? Don't call me Alice. My name is Shredded Meat. Do you understand? The little Loli looked expectant, but unfortunately, Chinrui didn't see it at the back. Chinrui showed a puzzled look. Shredded meat? Shirku and shredded meat. I don't remember. It's the story of the Titanic that you told me. Titanic? Chunrei suddenly understood, and he was speechless. Oops, shirku and shredded meat? Are you sure I pronounced it like this when I told the story? In desperation, Chunrei had to help hold up the little loli's arms, but it looked like a knockoff no matter how he looked at it. Even if he ignored the difference between the ship and the demonic beast, the height difference between the two people was quite big. However, Alice didn't care about this. After flying, for a while, she leaned her body back. Chunrei was afraid that she would fall, so he quickly stabilized himself. However, the little loli actually turned her head back excessively. She seemed to want to, conveniently, peck on his face again. Fortunately, the height difference was there, and the little loli couldn't stand on her tiptoes, so this attempt had to fail. Chunrei pretended not to see it on the surface, but his back was sweating profusely. Last time, he was more or less reserved. He knocked her unconscious before pecking. This time, he actually used role-playing to directly enter the role. Alice's first plan didn't work, so she thought of another plan. She shouted, "I'm out of strength," and fell back. Chunrei was already prepared, so he gently supported her shoulder with his hand. The little loli immediately felt that the other party couldn't avoid it, so she immediately pouted with dissatisfaction. "Since you're out of strength, let's go back and land," Chunrei said. The wyvern had begun to slow down and slowly landed. This action made Alice even more unhappy. She looked aggrieved as if she was about to cry. Chunrei knew that the little loli's acting skills were superb, but he would put up with her today. While the little loli was depressed, she suddenly smelled a tempting fragrance. Then she saw a plate with a small piece of cake in front of her. No, this shouldn't be a cake. It seems to be solidified, somewhat like crystal, but it is more delicate and small. The fragrance is also very unique. The little loli's eyes suddenly couldn't move away. She couldn't care less about pretending to be pitiful. She secretly swallowed her saliva. "What is this?" "This is called pudding." Chunrei had a small spoon in his hand and handed it to her. "I just made it last night. You're the first person to taste it. Even Athena hasn't tried it yet." This sentence made the little loli's eyes brighten. She took the spoon and looked at the translucent, exquisite pudding. For a moment, she felt reluctant to eat it. After a long time, she carefully scooped a little into her mouth and tasted it. After that, she couldn't stop. In the blink of an eye, the pudding was completely wiped out. Alice played for a long time, so she also felt hungry. Her appetite was aroused by the pudding. After eating it, she felt that it wasn't enough. "Give me 2 more, then I can reluctantly forgive you for taking the opportunity to hug me while flying just now." Chunrei rolled his eyes as he listened. "It's obvious that you want to play with the Titanic. A human. Even if you're a demon, you can't confuse black and white like this. If you don't give it to me, I'll tell my sister and Athena that you touched my—" "Stop!" Crying without tears. A loli's pleasant chewing sound. "I also want cake, barbecue, hot pot. Don't look at me like this, human brother. I know you have the best way. Love, a proud day, Chin, a hard day." Chapter 318. With great difficulty, Chunrei finally ended the day's escort work. He felt particularly tired. Sometimes, he felt that facing Alice was more tiring than facing the demon realm's first sage. Although it was very tiring, although some quirky little details emerged one after another, it was still worth it to see the pure and cheerful smile on this loli's face. Because it might be a long time before he could see this lovely face again. The time before parting always passed very quickly. That night, the sheriff's house, which was still quiet on the outside, was actually very lively. In the courtyard, Chunrei, Paglio, Lomont, Delia, Kia, and Alice gathered together. Dodo and the little black horse were also there. However, the protagonist tonight was Athena. "Let's toast to Athena!" The little loli raised her glass high. Everyone stood up together and raised their glasses to Athena. Due to her height, the little loli only had one hand left to raise the glass. However, The girl immediately stood on the stool and seemed to be taller than the others. No one would blame her. Chinrui didn't stop her from drinking as usual because today was Athena's birthday. The courtyard was filled with the fragrance of various foods. Just the sizzling sound of the oil dripping on the charcoal on the barbecue was mouth-watering. Some were done directly on an iron plate. In addition to meat, there were also vegetables and fish. This kind of food, called teppanyaki, by Chinrui, was introduced in the demon realm for the first time. The taste made everyone praise it. The barbecue was just one of the delicacies today. For this sumptuous dinner, Chinrui had specially prepared for 2 days. The environment was the best for training people. In fact, he was originally just an otaku who could take care of himself and barely knew how to cook. After coming to the demon realm, after a series of training, in addition to warriors, mechanics, magicians, etc., being a chef was also considered one of the professions that he could show off. The laughter and lively atmosphere reminded Chinrui of the moment when he celebrated his birthday with a few friends in a small restaurant near the school when he was in college. A few bottles of beer, a few snacks, and a few barbecue were a sumptuous meal. At that time, they were all single buddies with a few gay friends. Now, the hand in his hand was so warm and real. This was the most important woman in his life. She was irreplaceable. Even the demon realm's first beauty in the Shadow Empire or the charming succubus maid on the side couldn't replace her. Athena's thoughts also returned to the scene when her father celebrated her birthday in the Warlock Fortress. The difference was that there were only a dozen ants and her father in front of her at that time. Now, although the man she respected the most was not by her side, there were so many true friends accompanying her. Most importantly, there was him. "Thank you, devil god, for bringing him to me. Athena, it's time for you to cut the cake." Alice's voice interrupted Chinrui and Athena's memories. Although they had been eating and drinking, the little lowly still did not give up her desire for the 3-layer cake in the center. She completely forgot someone's warning that eating too much dessert will make you fat. Chinrui lit the 20 candles inserted on the cake. At this moment, the flickering warm candlelight was not inferior to the purple brilliance of the 2 moons in the sky. Athena looked at her friends around her, and then looked at Chinrui. Her eyes flashed with crystal light. She gently blew out the candles, then closed her eyes and made a wish. Everyone already knew the meaning of this rule during Alice's fake birthday last time. When Athena opened her eyes, Alice couldn't help but ask, "Athena, what did you wish for?" Alice also knew that it was a bit presumptuous to ask. For example, when she was on an outing last time, she made a small secret wish. As for Athena, it must be related to that guy without thinking. "My wish is to be with everyone forever." This is Athena. Delia looked at Lomont. The two smiled at each other and held hands gently. This time, Demon God opened his left and right eyes at the same time. Paglio's glass paused for a moment, then he raised his head and drank it again. It was also a bottle of wine, but this time, he only felt warm and particularly rich. "Athena!" Alice hugged her best friend tightly, and tears flowed down. Kia's eyes showed envy. However, she could only be relieved that she was slowly becoming a member of everyone. "Mom, did you see it?" Chinrui smiled at his beloved woman, and his eyes showed deep affection. "This wish will definitely come true. I promise you." After eating and drinking, it was already late at night. Everyone didn't party all night, but considerately left time for Chinrui and Athena. Chinrui took Athena's hand and walked upstairs. Although this kind of hand-holding was a very common intimate action for the two now, Athena seemed a little flustered as if it was the first time she was held by him. The first time should be in the Black Rainforest, the time when she got the devil fruit. At that time, he held her hand and walked through the dangerous dragon inscription trap step by step. That hand was so warm and calming. When Athena was absent-minded, she had already come into the room. She watched Chinrui quickly activate the soundproof magic circle outside and carefully close the door. Her face suddenly turned red. "This guy seems to be ready. I have been waiting for this day for a long time." After Chunrui arranged everything, he turned around and looked at Athena, who was standing at the head of the bed at a loss. He smiled slightly and walked over. Athena lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. In fact, both of them had been waiting for this moment for a long time, but when it really came, Athena still felt nervous. The moment he picked her up and put her on the bed, Athena's body was tense. "I say, you don't have to be so nervous. I'll help you take off your shoes first. I'll do it myself." Athena hurriedly swung her small leather boots out and hit the magic lamp on the opposite wall. The power of the Peak of Demon King plus the quasi-legendary grade boots shattered the magic lamp without any suspense. I'm sorry." Chunrui remembered that when his power was not as good as hers, she subconsciously threw a kiss onto the opposite wall out of shyness. As a result, Kia also asked Slee to help demolish the wall, which made Athena blush. Now her face was red again, but it was really cute. "Okay, listen to me." Chunrui lay on the bed and forcibly pressed Athena into his arms. "I think this kind of thing is not a program. I should say it's not to complete a mission. We don't have to do something at a certain time. I just want to talk to you now." However, it seemed that there were many synonyms for this sentence, such as, "I just want to take a look at the bra. I only put it outside, not inside," and so on. Chunrui was secretly embarrassed, and he quickly added, "I will leave the dark moon in a few days. It will be difficult to hear your voice by then." Athena's body gradually relaxed. Yeah, he is leaving again. The stronger he is, the fewer days they will spend together. When he was still a powerless weakling, he could accompany her every day. She still remembered the wonderful stories he told at that time. Is this what Father said, the greater the power, the greater the responsibility? "How long are you going this time?" Athena leaned against his chest and asked. "I don't know." Chunrui stroked her hair. "This step is very important, but if Princess Royal wants to defeat Obsidian and ascend the throne, it must be inseparable from powerful force. If this step can be successful, the impact should be able to minimize Obsidian's support rate and power. This period of time is also quite precious for the Dark Moon. We must seize the time to recuperate and enhance our strength. As long as we delay for a certain amount of time, the enemy will weaken while we grow. When Princess Royal and Obsidian finally fight, the winning rate should be greatly increased. Of course, the plan will never keep up with the changes, and I can't guarantee the final outcome. You are already very amazing." Athena's eyes showed admiration. "Originally, the Dark Moon was in a precarious situation. After your efforts and planning, at least Princess Royal has the strength to truly compete with Obsidian. No wonder even my father is full of praise for your wisdom." Chunrui sneered. "Of course, who am I? If I don't have the ability, I would have been cut into pieces by your father long ago. How can I still hold his precious daughter like this?" "It's just cunning and flowery words." Athena felt sweet in her heart. "You spared no effort in Princess Royal's affairs. Tell me honestly, what is the relationship between you two?" "You're doing it again. She and I are just a lord and subordinate. What are you thinking?" Chunrui added another sentence in his heart. "At most, we just hugged each other's shoulders, held hands, and danced for a few hours. However, if this matter is spread out, everyone in the Dark Moon will definitely worship his guts." "Humph. Don't treat me as a fool." Athena snorted with dissatisfaction. "But I have said it long ago. As long as you really have the ability to move Princess Royal, I will never mind." "You won't mind, and you still want to use it to interrogate." Chunrui shook his head. "Don't think too much. If my plan succeeds, she will eventually be the Empress of the Empire. I don't dare to court death. It's better to keep my life and be intimate with my future female general for a few more years." "Who is your future female general?" Athena grabbed the naughty hand that was playing tricks on her chest. "Haven't you been hooking up with your maid recently?" Chunrui was speechless. These days Kia, who had recovered her siren nature, would flirt with him from time to time. There was a hint of adultery. However, it was Athena who took the initiative to take Kia back to live previously. In fact, The relationship between Kia and Athena was quite good. The maid had a humble attitude of following the heroine's lead in everything. This made Delia, who was originally a little indignant, have a much better impression of her. Athena looked up and saw Chunrei's appearance. She suddenly smiled. This is what Delia taught me. I have to give you a wake-up call first, lest you become a playboy like Lomont. Chunrei was secretly ashamed. Lomont has been stared at by demon god's right eye now. It seems to be very dedicated. Actually, I just need to know that you are good to me. I don't care about the rest. As Athena said, she let go of the hand that was pressing down. The consequence of this acquiescence was that the fullness of her chest was grasped by someone. That's right, he couldn't even grasp one side with one hand. His fingertips twirled the bud at the top of the fullness. The future female general with a flushed face panted lightly. Although it was not the first time he took advantage of her like this, she was stimulated to the point that her whole body went soft every time. She only felt a fire in her heart, and her body became hot. Later, can you change into your transformed appearance? Bastard, is this some kind of shameless bad taste? Every form of Athena is mine. Cunningly changing the wording. And, as expected, Chunrei turned over and pressed Athena under him. Soon, the female swordsman with blurred eyes was stripped into a white sheep. Speaking of which, a certain man did endure for a long time. Other than the time with Christina at the Silent Night wetland, this was only the second time in a real sense. Of course, some other solutions from Athena and Kia did not count. It's already past 12 o'clock now. Really, it won't affect anything? Chunrei asked vaguely. Of course, it was vague. He was busy. And Athena bit her lip and answered through her nose. She hugged his head tightly. Her trembling body twisted slightly, enduring the waves of intense stimulation. As long as one was over 20 years old, the whale's family's automatic advancement, mutated bloodline would be activated. As for certain things, there was no need to wait until after advancement. Wait, did you and Kia? Didn't you not care? Kia said that she won't be in front of you. This sentence made the woman who was already confused completely give up her last line of defense. There were only heavy breathing and seductive whispers left in the room. At noon the next day, the man and woman who went upstairs to complete something after the birthday celebration last night still did not appear in the courtyard. No way, so fierce? Lomont was a little dumbfounded. You're envious. If you're capable, go find a great dragons and sign a symbiotic contract. Paglio said proudly. Delia frowned. It was Athena's first time. Chunrei really didn't know how to cherish her. As the night fell, Chunrei walked down with a tired face. Sir Leader, you're too amazing. One time is one day. Lomont's face was full of admiration. He walked over. This is beyond the scope of the power of dragons. There must be some secret technique. Sir Leader must teach me. Secret technique your ass. Athena automatically advanced last night. I've been helping her stabilize her power. Chunrei replied impatiently. He said to Delia, who wanted to go up to visit, don't disturb her first. She's sleeping. After waking up, she'll be able to fully adapt to the great demon king's power. Speaking of which, it was Chunrei's fault. Previously, the two had been very smooth. They were in perfect harmony and happy physically and mentally. However, when Athena couldn't resist someone's strong request and transformed into the witch form, perhaps it was because she was too happy, there were signs of mutation and breakthrough. Generally, the breakthrough was completed at the peak state, but because Athena's physical condition was not good at the moment, Chunrei didn't dare to neglect. He carefully helped her complete the transition of the advancement power bit by bit, and finally completed the great demon king's advancement perfectly. It turns out that the leader is so pitiful. This reminds me of a story about a kangaroo and a frog going on a date with a beauty. Tell me about it. Paglio in the distance had been listening to the movement here, so he immediately asked. The frog and the kangaroo each went on a date with a beauty. The kangaroo finished in a few moves, But the frog next door was listening to the whole night. 1, 2, 3, hey! 1, 2, 3, hey! The kangaroo was so envious. The next day, the kangaroo expressed his admiration to the frog. The frog's answer was, F***ck, I didn't jump into bed all night. Scram! Delia's voice had already sounded out one step ahead of him.